And that's exactly the reason why I'm no longer allowed to enter the state of Nevada. But
that's unfortunate because it's in the way of everything else.
You can
which is
go
why
around.
I haven't left. That's why I never go outside of California to the United States. I go to other countries.
How much airspace is there to that block? Like, are you not allowed to fly over Nevada either? You have to go around.
No, so I'm not allowed to fly myself over Nevada, but other people can fly me, because otherwise the problem was they couldn't like bring me. They couldn't arrest me and bring me over Nevada airspace, which was a problem. So like the only solution was they had to allow me to travel past, but not myself. So I can't drive or fly over Nevada.
Which is a good thing because you don't have
people
flyers.
You're just going to get these weird tickets. Like, why'd you connect to Utah via Seattle?
Why are you going over to Mexico to go over to?
Why'd you fly, like, you flew over Nevada, but on, like, the Z-axis?
Well,
just a big V.
I mean, you could always take the Arizona route. I didn't have to go to Seattle. I mean,
wait. Arizona, yeah. Arizona is north?
Welcome to Western United States geography jokes. Welcome to Dialog Choices Podcast, the real name of this podcast, not the other one I said.
Not that other weekly podcast you subscribe to that has the exact same name as that.
Yeah, not that famous top 10 on iTunes podcast, Western United States geography jokes.
Do you guys know all the 50 states?
No. Yes? Define no.
Yes?
Define no. You're the one saying no.
No, define KNOW.
Oh.
That's the crux of what do you mean by no?
The names of all the 50 states, as in if I ask you to name them, right now you can name them. I'm not going to ask you to.
It would take me a while because I didn't memorize the Animaniacs song.
I can do the states. I can't do capitals. I don't know capitals.
No,
I have no idea about capitals.
Yeah,
I remember being
a lot I don't know at all.
I remember being like 16 or 17, and there's this one episode of this TV series. Nobody has ever heard of it. Really bad, called Friends. And I was watching it, and somebody asks about the 50 states of the United States, and one of the characters goes, I know them. And then they do the whole episode about them not knowing the 50 states. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I will take that challenge. I have no idea how to pronounce half of these because Mm-hmm. And then
I can't even tell what that one was supposed to be.
Exactly.
You're trying to say Wyoming
or Ohio?
Wait a second.
Potentially, or Idaho.
Oh, no, he said W. He said Y. He said
he started with a Y, but then he ended with Ohio.
Yeah,
I got really lost.
I didn't know where I was going. Okay, the point is, at the age of 17, this was 15 years ago.
But I can open up like a notepad document and be like, give me 20 minutes. I'll brainstorm.
No, yeah.
I'll get there eventually.
20 minutes, you might get there.
I'll just write them alphabetically. So whenever I think of another one, I can check if I already have it yet. And then eventually it'll hit 50.
Wait a second.
That's what I did because I had to test myself after I went through the map and be like, oh, Montana over here and Nebraska and the Wairava part.
Yeah, I guess I would use Excel. Because then it would be counted automatically because the cell numbers.
Flyover states are going to be the ones you forget the most frequently. That and like the small, teeny, tiny cluster of states on the East Coast.
Oh, I like those.
Island,
those are easy. Rhode Island is easy. New Jersey, and all those. Those are Maine.
New England.
New England, that's true. I had like I don't know why I did this, but I had like mnemonics where I would like tidy them all together. So I remember there's 6 ones that start with MI, like Mississippi and Missouri.
You've literally put more effort into memorizing the states than I have.
Yes, but I forgot them all because it's been too long. I mean, not all of them. I know the states maybe, but not the rim that I talked about before. Certainly not the capitals. I mean, Florida is the capital of Florida.
The capital of Florida is Miami.
Yeah.
That's the one.
I was like, it's not Florida, right? I think you said no. I think you just said something insane.
Yeah, you said the capital of Florida is Florida, and I was like, no, it is definitely not. Florida is a dumb state, but not that dumb.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was Miami or Orlando or what, but I don't think there's a city of Florida in Florida, or at least it's not.
It's not the capital, at least.
Is there a state whose capital is just the name of the state?
Yeah. New York? New Jersey?
Oh, yeah.
Texas? No, wait, Texas?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. The capital of Florida is Tallahassee. See, I don't fucking know capitals.
Oh, it's Tallahassee.
Yeah, Tallahassee. A name I only know from Zombieland.
That's the thing. I can't remember state. I can't remember like state capitals because it's like the most worthless information about a state.
Yeah, New York. I think New York is the capital of New York, isn't it?
Yeah.
New York capital. The only
It's New York City. The thing is, it's not. It's technically not New York.
It's Albany.
It's Albany.
It's Albany.
Yeah,
Dang it.
Albany's the capital of New York.
I know there's Indiana.
They won't do New York.
Indiana is one, and Minneapolis is.
Sometimes it's just the big obvious sounding place, so you think it's
I know there's
capital.
one in the north. It's Michigan? No.
Like somebody might think that the capital of California is Los Angeles because it's
So-
the
well,
big
so
deal
Indi-
city, but it's Sacramento.
Sacramento,
Indiana
California.
is.
Oh no. He's gonna do it.
Sacramento, California.
Yeah.
That's a, that's
Such a good voice line.
Yeah.
It's so fucking baffling. I still don't know why it was what it was, or what its point was, or why it's funny. It's
Yeah,
just,
I still don't
it's
know
a
why.
complete non sequitur.
I don't know why the clones are saying it, but the way that they said it was so great. Like,
Yeah,
it's just.
it's a great voice line, but I have no idea. There's just a bunch of weird clones, and they keep saying Sacramento, California.
Sacramento.
Sacramento, California.
Probably
There's
just
so much
funnier
detail
because
to
we're
that.
like, hey, that's us. We're there. Ish.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is funny because it is our state capital, but
we
also
feel
like
personally attacked.
it's funny because they weren't in California saying it. So like it's weirder because they're not even in
The
California
game
saying
takes
it.
place
so
in
the context
Colorado.
is, yeah, so the context is like, what? Why are you saying Sacramento, California here? I don't even know this. I don't even know the capitals of of Colorado, but I know it's not Sacramento. Like, what are you doing?
Like this is is this a reference to the first Wasteland that no one played?
Yeah.
Probably.
It's available
Indiana's
for free.
capital is Indianapolis, which is
Yeah. That's the only one that I
Really?
remember.
I feel like Indianapolis is a way better state name than Indiana, which
Is
Oh, yeah,
Indiana
that-
related?
That is like the same state name, but it's like with a city ending. I also
yeah,
thought
they
there
just
might be
added,
like
they
I
just
also thought
added
there might be
city
like
in.
there might be like
it's-
a capital that's like capital name state name city. Like Mexico
Yeah, 'cause I was
City,
gonna
except
say,
that's
'cause
Mexico, but you know what I mean?
Polis is just Greece for city.
I almost
So
moved
Texas-
'cause I almost moved to one of
Texas is
those. I
Texas,
almost moved
right?
to like a place, a state name city, but I can't remember what it is
Oh.
now. But it's that one that's
Texas is
it's,
Boston.
it's the weird one that it's not a capital because it's that one weird city where it's on the border.
Boston. No, Denver is Boston.
It's all border. What do you mean all border?
There's
It's the Wyoming up there.
there's a city in the the Midwest or whatever that's like the Mid-East. I don't know, near the South.
Cayenne is
In the middle of the
Wyoming.
country, there's a city that's named after the state, but only half of it's in that state because the other half's in the other state.
Oh, yes.
It's
I've heard of
specifically
this.
that
They
city
had
where
some
businesses
political-
there's grants to encourage people to move to their state for business reasons. So if you move your business to their state, then you get a grant. But both states offer that, so people move back and forth between the two halves of that city every few years because they're in the same city, but they're moving states, and that gives them the
I
grant.
think it's Kentucky. It's Louisville.
No,
I think that's the one.
It wasn't
That
there
might-
like a political
it's-
kerfuffle.
it might also have
like, a
that, but
couple
no,
years ago?
it's like Ohio City or like state
Is
name
it?
city.
Oh,
Kansas
no,
City.
no,
It's
oh.
Kansas City.
There
I
you
almost
go.
I almost moved to Kansas City a while ago, a long time ago.
Kansas
and,
City. Who owns Kansas
I
City?
think it was Kansas City. Fuck.
The capital of Kansas
Oh
is Topeka.
no, I hit okay. It's F11. Ooh,
Oh yeah, Kansas City is between Kansas and Missouri. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
actually owned by both. What a
yeah, what a weird situation to be in.
Borders are a dumb fake. Wait, did they put the border across the Mississippi River? What kind of who did this? Is this Lewis and Clark? Swear to God, what kind of idiot did this?
Lewis Clark, we need to speak.
Yeah,
Well,
who the
it's-
hell makes a stupid
Well, it's the
border
Mis- it's-
based on a?
a lot of rivers are borders, which is a problem because rivers move.
But rivers change. Why would you
Exactly.
do that? What kind of idiot would do that?
Admittedly, it's in the middle of a city, so all of the borders of that river are like cemented in place at this point.
Oh yeah, it
God.
seemed like a good idea since they named the city Kansas City, but it's owned by Mississippi. Yeah, or Missouri. Wow, real good job there, guys.
I found the only state that has a city with the same name. It's Oklahoma.
Oklahoma City. That sounds right.
Yeah, it's the only one.
What?
Every other state, if you exclude Indianapolis,
Yeah.
which is
We're talking
sort of a
capitals.
cop-out.
Like it's the only one that has a capital that is just the state name city.
The state name, as far as I can tell, yeah. Every other one
Oklahoma
is
City.
Cities that I've never heard of, which is sort of like that's a bit of a like, especially for the United States. I think people who not very necessarily into political or the political reality of the U.S. they think that maybe it's Los Angeles or New Vegas or New York.
New
But
Vegas.
it's Washington D.C. It obviously it's in a state that people never heard about. Well, actually, Washington D.C. is not.
It's not even
state.
a state. It's the District of Columbia, which is just a weird territory.
Yeah.
Magic zone where like
But
it's
they
like
really called it
it's like a
Oklahoma
micro state that's just one town, and then the mayor of that town is like the governor of that pseudo state. It's weird, but also in many ways doesn't have rights as a place, so it's just run by the federal laws in many cases, and so it's got a lot of weird fuckery going on with how it works that actively
Washington,
hinders
DC is
it
a
as a
mess,
place. Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard somewhere that they were considering putting up to a vote to become the 51st state.
It probably has
This
more
is like-
population than some of the actual states.
yeah, they're small states.
There are fucking nowhere states. There are places where I'm like, why do they count as their own place? Why don't they?
Oh, you mean like-
why didn't a couple of these places just merge?
You mean like
It still wouldn't be as big as
Vermont?
California and Texas.
How big is the population in Vermont? 600,000.
That's a big
Wow.
city.
North
No.
Dakota, largest number of
No,
churches
you
per
said-
capita.
Do you know what I could do with
California
600,000 people?
population.
I think
40 million.
I think when I checked, North Dakota had less people than Sacramento.
Yeah, most likely.
Like there's
Sacramento- isn't Sacramento-
individual cities that aren't even the biggest. They're not even one of the
North
big cities of
Dakota
a
has
state, and they have more than entire.
760,000 people.
That's about
a
the
lot.
population of Sacramento. Yeah.
Population of Sacramento is 508,000 people.
there we go.
Ah.
I thought Sacramento was like a sprawling city.
But
You thought it was what?
Portland,
A sprawling
Portland
city.
is-
Like a sprawling as in not like condensed. It's like Los Angeles. 'Cause
Los Angeles is 3.9
So
million.
Sacramento's, I think its slogan is the biggest little city, or something like that. Which is
Yeah.
that it's there's a downtown area with some tall buildings, but other than that, it just goes in every direction
that's my,
forever.
Yeah.
So, but
Driving
it's also,
across Sacramento without traffic can still take an hour.
Sacramento is
I-
like
yeah.
weirdly deceptive too, because if you look at it on a county map, it's still not really. It's like it's somehow weirdly gerrymandered into existence because like its shape doesn't make any sense in context of the other counties around it. Because
Yeah.
like you have like Rancho or not Rancho, but hold on.
It's funny how I was joking about
counties.
geography, but this just became a geography podcast.
It's well, I
We
mean,
can pivot. We
it's
can do
it's
it.
a weird topic. So you have like Sacramento County, but then next to it you have like Amador, El Dorado, and
found it?
Placer. But Placer County is like this huge
Placer.
nightmare mess, or Placer or whatever. You have Placer that's a huge nightmare mess. But then you have like if you look at Sacramento, it goes all the
Hate
way
Placerville.
down. Sacramento goes all the way down like past Solano is technically
Isn't that
still
like
part of
Plant?
Sacramento County, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
by the
Germany
way.
was just a weird mess.
The capital of Washington.
California is
isn't
also so
Seattle.
spaced out that it actually feels like one of those like gerrymandering charts that you fill out to test if you can like do a gerrymandering on like a grid, because like
Do a gerrymandering.
all of California is just like here's a town and then here's a town and then here's a town, and it's like in between each town is like a dozen square miles of empty farmland space, so it's just so much free space with no conflicts in between. Except Sacramento itself, which is like so massive that it connects to every connecting town. So you don't even realize when you get to like Citrus Heights or Rancho Cordova and so on that are all like actually not Sacramento. But you don't know when you got there because you just drove through the continuous buildings, and at some point it stopped being the same town.
It's like it cracks me up when I look, especially if you look at a county map and you see San Francisco is embarrassing tiny. It's like maybe
it's just jammed on one hill and they put a grid on it.
It's one tiny little grid. And then you look at like San Bernardino, which is a huge chunk. It's probably like 5,000 San Franciscos put next to each other. And the population is so odd. Like San Francisco's 4.7 million people, San Bernardino's 209,000 people. Like what the hell is going on with these districts? Why are they so weird? It's just, I don't know. Then you have like Fresno, which looks like an ugly boot, just in the way of what I imagine is perfectly good other counties that could exist.
The distribution can be so weird too, because like there's
there's a Nevada county in California. I don't know if I can travel through there.
That's
Wait, the city in Nevada County is Nevada City.
Wait,
California.
you have a Nevada city in Nevada County that isn't in Nevada.
What?
it's pretty common.
What is
Yeah.
this? What?
A lot of our street names are the names of like other states
And
or cities.
Oh, that's interesting.
And guess what the fuck that county's touching? Nevada.
It's often just because those words already existed.
It happens.
And then those
I think
words
it might
became
happen because
places.
of migrations.
I'm gonna call it laziness.
Yes.
Because you can
No,
see
'cause you get-
somebody didn't give a crap about South California. South California is just huge, giant, monolithic counties. And then you get a little up and you're like, oh, we got to start giving a crap now. So now there's like tiny little counties every fucking which way. And then you go back up north and no one seems to care anymore. Like there's this like small section in the
I think
middle
it's where
of
we
California.
started, right? Because the Sacramento area was the gold rush.
Yeah. But like, well, yeah, that's the thing is like, so the middle of California is the only part that matters. Everything else in California is an accident, and we just kind
it's
of
like how
pretend
all
it's
of the
there.
East Coast was very micromanaged, but then the entire middle part of the country is just a bunch of squares.
Yeah,
Because they all just carved it up in an afternoon, like, oh, there's the contract, here you go, whatever. It's make it those meridians or those rivers.
Yeah. Looking at
Anyways, borders are dumb. Don't follow them.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it was always funny looking at a map though when I started going to college and everything and seeing Google Maps and I live in a town and my town feels big and chunky and it takes a while to drive around in it. It's got all the different types of stores and things. Then you look at the fucking map and it's like, okay, there's Fairfield, there's Vacaville, there's Dixon, there's Davis. Davis is pretty big, and then you get to the fucking Sacramento, and it's like the solar system when you have a scale model that has the sun on it, and it's like, oh my god, like Sacramento is this eternity ball that will one day grow to consume all of the other cities.
Yeah. My first experience of that magnitude was when I also with Google Maps when I went to the big cities in East Asia. And I just compared, like, went really deep and just compared the sizes. And I'm like, this is like the Matrix or something. Because it is just such an enormous... Like, when we think about structures and buildings in sci-fi movies and stuff like that, we tend to think of, like, a big spaceship. Or maybe you have a Dyson sphere or the Death Star. I think, like... The cities that we
real
create
life
as humans
has impossible, sprawling, crazy stuff. Yeah.
This, like it's because there's not all the gardens, all the forest, everything that exists in there that isn't concrete and cement and all that. It's all also put there on purpose. So it's like even the gardens are not like natural as a in a way. So it's just a big Dyson sphere. except
Yeah.
it's very close to
Madison
the
Square
floor.
Garden. Wait,
I don't. What?
is Madison Square
No.
Garden just an arena?
Yes.
I think I mixed it
Madison
up.
Square
What's the name of
Garden's
the
an arena.
What's the name of the park in New York? State
Oh, Central
Central Park.
Central Park.
Park.
Central
That's
Park
the
is also it's a man-made thing.
Yeah, it's like the hyper
yeah.
artificial
Yeah.
location.
Yeah.
It's such
New
a
York
boring.
was a-
It's such a boring name that, as somebody who's never actually been to New York, I always want to call it Madison Square Garden because that sounds
And guess-
better. And it is like a
and-
big. It's a rectangle, but it's like
Yeah.
it's
It's
a big
also
square.
in New York, right? Yeah.
And
Yeah.
guess what that
Now
used
that's
to
where
be
they
in that
learned
park.
that's where they have to put the bombs because Godzilla made babies there.
Oh, I
eggs.
thought that's where they put
'Cause-
the Super Bowl.
That I was talking about in Godzilla, but
Oh, right.
in Godzilla, that's where the because Jurassic Park was very famous, so they wanted to have raptors in their Godzilla movie. So they're like, it's a girl. Godzilla's a woman and made a bunch of eggs, and they're all going to hatch in Madison Square Garden. We got to blow up Madison Square Garden. That's a lot
That
of
feels
fish.
like a Michael Scott type movie.
Yeah. Madison Square Garden's a really unfortunate situation. Or not Madison Square Garden, the Central Park is an unfortunate situation.
Oh, I
that
thought
used to
you were
be-
going to say Godzilla's an unfortunate situation.
No, Godzilla's. Well, I mean, its context
Depends.
is unfortunate, but I'm glad it's. I'm glad it isn't nearly as depressing as its historical counterpart. But yeah, like because Central Park used to be affordable housing, for
Oh no.
non-whites, but New York needed a park, and there was only one place to put it.
To
and that
remove
was
the
place where
pores.
yeah, it was you had to put it where you didn't want people to be anymore, and that was
What a
poor
great track
housing.
record we have for that stuff.
Isn't
America's
Manhattan
interesting.
Island like half of it owned by a single family, something like that?
Staten Island.
No,
That sounds true to the bullshit that things usually have.
I don't know if it's Staten Island. I have heard that name. I don't know what it means. I said
Staten
Manhattan
Island is.
but I don't know.
Staten Island is just like a shitty. It's like San Francisco. It's a shitty like accident floating in the water that we built buildings on.
Yeah, well, like the big city of New York, or rather, I say the big city, but the Big Apple, maybe. What island is that?
You're talking about Manhattan.
Manhattan, yeah. What
Manhattan's
did I say?
like the actual heart.
I think it's at
Of,
Staten Island.
Yeah, Staten Island is below it.
Yeah,
So have you played Grand Theft Auto 3, right?
yeah.
It's the same map. Grand Theft Auto 3 is based off of New York.
I know.
Very
Yeah,
small.
so that map. So Staten Island's the island at the very bottom of the GTA 3 map. Mm-hmm. Manhattan's the one that's on the right, on the top right, and then Jersey City's on the top left.
The
And
bad
then
part
Brooklyn,
of the map.
Brooklyn didn't get added really.
part of the
Brooklyn's like a really small.
It's the worst
side on
part.
the
I
bottom.
hate it.
What, Jersey?
Yeah, I don't like it at all.
I mean, everybody hates Jersey.
Jersey
It's
or
the-
Brooklyn? I thought you said Brooklyn.
You hate Brooklyn?
Brooklyn is the first part, right? Is the part where you start the game.
Yeah, Brooklyn's a small little area you start the game at.
Man,
I think at
Think
that
you might
age,
be talking-
you're probably-
I think
okay,
at
so you're
that age,
probably
I was
talking
just
about-
fucked around with the gameplay mechanics, so I never actually unlocked islands.
Are you talking about
Yeah.
you're talking about Governor's Island?
I don't remember the names.
Oh.
Are you talking like real life Governor's Island? Is that a thing?
Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to call back to the original thing you were talking about.
Oh, I don't know.
That the island that somebody owns.
No, I saw like a stat somewhere that like either 2/3 or like half or something of the big island, like the maybe it's just the not the buildings themselves, just the terrain, like the real estate. What is it called when you just have the land itself instead of having the buildings that you have on it? It's not real estate because buildings are also real estate.
It's just like
Just
what's the
land
word?
ownership?
Yeah, you just
guess.
you're just a land baron basically.
Land baron, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Well, if you-
like
I mean,
I'm
If
the
you
baron
own
of all
land.
land.
if you own
You want
land
any
that
land?
isn't
You
built
better
on,
come through me,
I think
Doctor Land Baron, PhD.
I didn't actually realize how bad New York kind of is. Like New York isn't in a place that it should be Sorry, I'm looking at like on a map, and I didn't realize just how much it sticks out into the water. And this isn't like
They're gonna catch a cold.
this isn't good long term.
It is very
this isn't
cold.
like this isn't going to be a very good long term solution with a
Oh no,
planet that's going to start having rising tides. Like,
That's
this
not
is going to be
news.
bad news.
That's not news. That's everybody knows that. You're all screwed. A large part of your big cities.
I mean, I'm in a state where it doesn't matter because the oceans can rise and I'll be fine. But like, New York can't. New York
the
will
East
drown.
Coast.
Like,
the East Coast
they're
is
gone.
yeah. Which is why I think it's the what's the
Oh, no, they're
CIA?
not
I
gonna
think it's the
have to-
CIA. Which is why the CIA considered up until 4 years ago considered global warming as a security threat because of course it is, and then it didn't consider anymore.
Well, because now we can move the stock market easily. We can just pick it up and move it somewhere else. So it's not a big
that was
issue
the only
anymore.
part that mattered. Everyone else can. That's just the poor. Is we build parks over them.
Well, it is Brooklyn and Queens. It's not a part that the country cares.
Besides,
primarily
don't you
too
think
much
that even if the
about.
water did rise and the houses were threatened, wouldn't they just sell?
Let's say
I mean, yeah, Canada is right there. They probably would buy.
Let's say
them.
global
I
warming is
doubt-
true
I doubt-
and the water levels are really going to rise. Wouldn't they just sell all of their property to Aquaman? You think about that? Did you?
They would.
Libs.
yeah.
Wait, what would happen? What's going to happen to Rikers Island? Is that just going?
Oh, Rikers, isn't that a prison?
It is a prison, but
Abolish
it's an
it.
island prison.
Abolish it.
Well, don't abolish it because
Isn't
Abolish.
Rikers like one of the worst prisons in the?
Abolish twice.
no,
the
Keith,
entire
that's not why
country?
Batman made a reference to it and being the terrible, crazy asylum that people want to break out of because it's a bad place to live. No.
Oh,
yeah,
you mean
Rikers.
Arkham? You mean Arkham Asylum?
Are you
Yeah,
saying
Arkham Asylum is just Rikers Island? It's not.
Are you
which
saying
is just
Batman
a
is
name
political?
stolen directly from Lovecraft?
you can't say Batman is political? How dare?
How dare you?
Batman's only political. His existence is made of politics. There is no bat. There is only politics.
No, I almost said the documentary. The
Politic man.
the HBO series The Night of is basically entirely about Rikers, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's what I learned about. Yeah.
That's got Riz
All
Ahmed.
right. I'm gonna throw a very hot take for people living in the New York City, but you have two islands. One's named North Brothers Island, and another is South Brothers Island. I don't know who these fucking brothers are, but they need to get their shit together. This is a stupid name for an island. Get
No,
your
that's
name-
good. I
get
will
your name
defend them.
better.
I
was
will
expecting-
defend them.
I was expecting to find out that they're not in the correct directions.
Yeah, that's like
would be
They
great.
have a north and a south. They're all, the right way around. It's all good. Well, ask Virginia. Why is there a West Virginia and not an East Virginia? What is that all about?
It's always a little. That's I was about to say. Like it's a little funny when things aren't coupled up. Like you have you have like North and South Dakota, but then you have like for pretty obvious reasons. There's like Northern Ireland, but the other one's just Ireland, aka real Ireland.
Yeah, okay.
And then it's like we have like a Virginia and a
Ireland.
West Virginia. So we have like real Virginia and like is Pepsi okay, Virginia?
No, we have Virginia, and you want the racist Virginia? That's the two different Virginias.
Virginia is
West
not?
Virginia is a terrible place
I
to
know
go.
that. I know
Do
that.
not
but
go to West Virginia, not unless you're the whitest person imaginable. Your son needs to be like Twilight bleached if you're going to go to West Virginia, or you're not going to have a good time.
Why am
Yeah.
I bleached?
Yeah, you need to be sparkling in the sunlight, because otherwise, I pray for you.
Where does Twilight take place? Colorado or something?
No, Portland.
Portland?
Yeah,
Takes place in Portland?
Oh no, sorry, no, I think it's Seattle. Actually, it's Washington. It's Washington. It's not Seattle, but it's in Washington. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like it's clearly not a big city. It's clearly like some hills town.
I mean, how big could it be? It's West Virginia.
No,
West Virginia is
It's-
pretty big.
it's not. It's
Is
West
it?
Virginia.
Yeah, it's bigger than Virginia.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah.
No, I mean when I say bigger, obviously I don't mean
Is
I don't
it
mean
really?
just the. I mean like in terms of
That makes the
population.
name
is
even
what I
weirder.
mean.
Oh, I guess
That's
not, because
probably not
technically
correct.
they're getting
No, I
by
thought
on
it
like
was-
a lot of they're getting by on Kentucky not pushing them on a really obvious border stealing, but yeah.
What?
If you
Really?
look at a map, Kentucky definitely
yeah,
has
no,
claim
no.
to ownership over half of Virginia.
West-
like they're just
the population
they're pushing
of-
their luck here.
Like what?
population-
Like it's a go board and they're about to win.
like if you look at West Virginia, Virginia goes past West Virginia, which is like Kentucky should go like, no, your hard stop is at the West Virginia border.
Oh, that's right.
You don't get to
That's
be
right.
like you don't get to be like Virginia up into me, and then West Virginia is just kind of hanging out there. Like, no.
That's right. West Virginia and Virginia has such a bad name that Virginia is further west than West Virginia.
Yeah, well, so West Virginia is north of Virginia, so
Yeah,
it should actually be
just
North Virginia,
North
South
Virginia.
Virginia. But like,
So just to clarify, West Virginia has 1,800,000 people, and Virginia has almost has 8.5 million. So
I've let this
I wasn't
podcast be
wrong.
about the map of the United States for half an hour.
we also have New Jersey, but no Old Jersey. Where the hell's Old
you
Jersey?
need to forget those. You need to forgive those. Those are
Old
I can't-
Jersey's
I can't
in
abide
Europe.
by these. This is bullying.
Where did Old
yeah.
Jersey go?
It's your old Jersey that you left at
York
the-
is
it's fine,
also
don't
in
worry.
Europe. All of the
Yes.
not news are in Europe, and then they came here and called it New
Except
that.
New Mexico. We
New
don't
Hampshire.
have that in Mexico.
There's a Hampshire somewhere. And
Yeah.
now we have the New Hampshire. We have it's a really
Me-
bad naming scheme. Yeah, there's also New Mexico. We just extra
isn't
silly
in
because
Europe.
Mexico was also new.
Is right next door as well. Oh, Mexico. No, Mexico isn't new. Mexico is really old.
It being a place called Mexico was new though, wasn't it?
Oh, that's true.
Different people used to live there in a different situation,
That's
and then,
true, that's true.
and
I
then
think it's the
colonists
city.
made it Mexico.
I think it's. I don't know the history very well, but I think it's the city, and there's like a certain people that lived in that city, and they weren't the capital or even the biggest.
I mean, there was
country
there was natives all throughout
Yeah,
Central
yeah.
and North and South America and so on, and then it
because
got,
there's another name for the vast majority
love-
of the empire that lived there.
I love how you
It's-
look at the United States and you go like, "Wow, what a
the
fucking
Aztecs
mess."
and the
then you
Incas
look
and the
at,
Mayans were all somewhere.
and then
No,
you look
no,
at
it's
Canada.
unrelated. It's a different name. It's like it's different. I think there's still cities that they have that are named after that empire.
You're talking about New Mexico?
No, Mexico itself. Like the what empire existed there when like
Well, which
the
empire?
Spanish?
There were several.
Do you
there
mean
were
the
several
colonists or
yeah
empires.
before the
that?
Spanish came in. Before the Spanish came in, basically.
The Aztecs, the Native Americans, the Inca.
The Native Americans
the-
aren't a group.
Well, you know what I mean.
It's like
tribes.
yeah,
There are many nations.
Native American tribes of some kind were living.
it's like
down there.
it's like when you
There's-
say what's it called?
But that's what I'm saying. That what are the names? Which one? Oh,
Well,
I'm-
they're all gone. They
they're,
all
they're,
died.
they're
gi-
not.
they're
They're not.
they're given history erasing names
Yeah.
like Native
I
American
bet
or
you-
what do they call pre-Christian religions again?
oh, I don't know.
Pagan.
Yeah,
There's
pagan, which is
animistics?
just like an
No,
an
pagan is a
amalgam that
specific
erases
term.
things.
That is a specific term used these days.
Wait, there's an
Different
Alamo
from
City
the
in
historical.
Mexico.
But it's used to
There's a
just
what?
group everything that isn't
Choco
Christian
Mateo.
that it replaced.
Yeah,
just-
but then if you're the serious historian, you don't use that term.
Don't we have? An
Yeah, but
Alamo
It
that's-
used to be
in
used like
Texas?
that, but
Here, serious
yeah.
historians get talked over.
That's
How-
true.
Isn't that confusing? Okay.
I can find the name. I will find the name.
I mean, it's definitely probably not the city of Fresnillo de Gonzales Echeverria, which I think that's named after a guy that came way after the colonizing.
Did you
just
say
gonna-
Che Guevara?
No, it's. Oh wait, this might be a city named after an old empire. Is Zacatencas? Zacatencas?
Is that a Tien attack?
It's. I mean,
Special beam cannon?
it's close. They have a. They have a lot. Wait, okay. Sorry, you zoom in and then like everything is named after people. So, all right, great. Like all the counties in the town are named after people. Where it's like this is Fernando Ponles Escobano and Ricardo Flores Mago, and it's like
Welcome to the town of Steve.
why?
Steve, I'm
Yeah,
sure there's
like,
a town with that name.
I mean, one
There
of them
has
is
to be.
named Benito Juarez. Like, come on, man.
I don't know
Dude.
about the people that lived there when the Spanish came. It might have been the Aztecs, and I just I'm remembering different names because they have different
Well,
names when you play.
Mexico's huge. There was a lot of people living
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Mexico.
yeah. because they have
And-
different names when you play Europa Universalis. And then I play them and their names show up and I'm like, oh, I'm going to look them up on Wikipedia, see what's all about them. And then I forget half of it and the rest gets mixed up. And I then go on into a podcast where I say bad things, wrong things.
Spread misinformation. Do it. You're
the
on the
real fake
internet.
news.
It's what it's for.
The
I'm more
fake news are
upset.
here.
You found another thing to be upset about maps.
Yeah, I'm upset.
I'm continually confused how there's more to talk about.
I'm upset because I was just zooming out to go to Mexico, and I look up, and Canada is organized. They've got their shit together. Like, all of their borders make sense. They have, like, a small amount of them, and it seems
Small amount of
put-
borders.
Like, look, yeah, they have, like, if you look at Canada and its borders on a map, look how well placed they are. They're, like, in nice square shapes, as best as they can be,
That's
without the
not
United
okay.
States being a fucking
That's
pain
not
in the
good.
ass.
Mostly
But
just
yeah,
because a lot
they're-
of it's empty.
Yeah, so they're just like marking it off. It's really nice and neat
That's-
and
that's
orderly.
actually
And then you
true,
look at
yeah.
the United States and it's a fucking mess. Someone just sneezed drawing a map. What happened here, guys?
Well, most of
But that-
I mean,
most of the population
but
of
that's
Canada lives within like an hour of the border to the United States or whatever. Maybe larger.
But that's
than that.
also
So,
a
like,
huge problem.
like
in,
to the
in
north.
Canada.
It's just a bunch of like, we claim this empty snow. we claim this empty snow.
That's not true. Are you
Actually,
saying
yeah.
that no one lives in Chicken 224?
What the fuck?
Or are you
In
going to
Ca-
explain to Chicken 225 that they have no competition?
Chicken 224? Is that the name of?
Yeah.
They just have non-names.
I have no idea.
I wasn't
I do know
ready for that.
I do know that in Canada, the specifically the state or provinces rather, the
Oh, shit,
delineations are
there's
a
a
big
Chicken
problem.
226 as well. Oh, fuck, it's getting crazy up in here.
They're a huge problem up there because of the First Nations. There's every time not every time, but a lot of the time when I hear about stuff that goes on with the government of Canada and the First Nations, it's always like they just they put a line in here or either because it's what is that pipeline that they're canceling? There's a lot about it. You can hear what's the one Ridgestone? That's not the word.
Are you talking about the one in the U.S. or Canada?
No, isn't
It
there a
might be in
pipeline connecting
both,
Canada?
for all I know.
Yeah, it's in both. Yeah,
Then it's probably the Ridge. Yeah, I think it's the Ridge.
something Yellow Ridge. No,
I don't know. I always forget these things.
yeah, it's either way. The point is, I hear some
I
adjacent
can
news,
Probably
and
find it quick.
apparently there's a lot of problems with the borders in Canada. So and like you can just guess because you can look at them and they're like, yes, they are very round and nice, and also drawn by Americans because they're round.
Keystone Pipeline.
Thank you, Keystone Pipeline. Yes. Chicken 226 is much better than Chicken 224. I don't know what you're talking about, Andrew.
Wow, it's just like Team Jacob. Have at
Like,
it,
why?
foes.
I mean, that is the unfortunate side is the poor. What do they call it? What does Canada's call? Canadians call them First people.
First Nations, yeah.
First Nations. Yeah, a lot of the First Nations got like the same, very unpleasantly dismissive and unhuman treatment that the Native Americans got from us.
Well, yeah, you know that just because it's called Canada.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
The very existence of the country means whoever was there sure got fucked.
Are you implying that Alberta wasn't a name that the First Nations people used to define their region?
My grandfather was called Alberta.
That is the weird. That is
It was-
one of the weird, gross things among many of the United States is that like the entire country, so many of the states and regions and cities and so on are named after. Are use the names of the people that were displaced.
Yep.
They're not. They're not
Wait a
from
second.
the.
That's why they're difficult to.
Why would
That's why they're difficult to, like to read in English because like Connecticut and Tallahassee.
Why would you
I think
put
it's
British
Connecticut.
Columbia on the furthest side? Why would you put British Columbia closer to actual Britain? What a weird decision. You should swap.
Because if it's closer to Britain, they don't need to call it British. They just call it Columbia.
Well, yeah, but that means that British people have to travel even further to get to it. Why
didn't
just
wanna
swap
go
it with
there.
Quebec? What the hell is this? Quebec can be over here.
Andrew's
There's nothing even
overflowing
in
with
Quebec.
map opinions today.
We need to get Canadians up in here.
Oh, sorry, I forgot Quebec has.
Quebec,
Is it not pronounced like that?
Qbert,
Quebec.
Quebec.
Quibby.
I don't know.
Maybe.
If it's
Oh,
like
no.
French,
The capital of
Canada- is Canada
Canada
going
is
bankrupt?
a failed streaming platform.
All right, that's
Are
enough
they still
maps.
up?
I'm sorry.
All
No.
right.
Well, I think Quibi is still available, but I don't believe it's.
I did have a topic in mind. I didn't expect
Yeah,
to
what's
start
the
it.
topic?
Let's do it.
40
Let's do it.
minutes in after we talk about.
Sorry.
that sounds good.
Really lost control here.
It's just the warm up section. You know how it goes.
I've been
No,
getting in
for-
arguments
for- sorry.
again, as I do. I
Okay.
was like, let's talk about this thing because it's something that I think we all have in common. Is not the arguments so much, but the topic of them, which is why are you so critical of video games in your content? Don't you know you'd get more viewership if you weren't critical instead?
Oh,
Thoughts?
is it actually true? I think maybe before we go
It's
to
just,
the
well, first of all, people love to just state their personal preference as being the magic bullet for how to get your whole channel to do better is to personally
Yeah.
just do what they
do
want.
what they like.
Because they didn't like your content for one reason or another. So if you just appeal to them, they just people love to just make it the argument that whatever their opinion is the majority.
Yeah,
Kind of like how with the Marauder stuff in Doom Eternal, where it's just like the entire reputation of that game was built entirely around people hating the Marauder, but everyone in the comments will be like, "Yeah, no, everyone loves the Marauder because I love the Marauder, but I can't just say my opinion in a vacuum and be secure in that. I've got to make the larger appeal that everyone agrees with me." Is a lot of that. But I think we all get pushed back for negativity as a concept, even if it's not any kind of consensus.
I think
I-
that there's an understandably annoying way to approach critique. I get that nobody wants to like get their pants pulled down and pushed over and then laughed at by the crowd, being like, your opinions are shit and you should feel like it. But there's definitely like times where it's really hard to express in, especially when you're in the middle of Let's Playing. Sometimes it's really hard to try to like create a video essay formulated level critique about something on the fly.
You're in the
when
middle
like-
of this
you're
blind playthrough of a game where you don't have the complete picture and won't until you're done, but please have a completely measured response to everything that takes everything into account, including what you don't know yet.
Yeah, like I can say that I'm definitely making general sweeping statements about, like, say for instance Honey Pop that I'm playing. And when I'm saying like it's a shit game and it's not redeemable. I haven't beaten it yet, and I can't guarantee that it's not. But I'm pretty confident in my assertion. Like, I don't really feel like I'm being a little unfair. Like, when I play, I can play a Sonic game, and in the first like 5 minutes, I can probably determine if the Sonic game's shit or not. I don't need to like get the full picture. I didn't need to beat Sonic 06 to know Sonic 06 wasn't worth beating. Like, that's not how this works. But there are definitely times where I can see why people would be really defensive, because some people have like they just play a game and that's the game. That's their game.
They
play it
barely
forever
think
and
about it the
ever.
whole time, and then they're like, "Wow,
Yeah.
Zero Escape has a great story."
And you're like, oof.
Because I
It is
didn't
tricky.
because I zombie consumed it the whole time and didn't think about it, and then all the twists blindsided me because I didn't think about them, and then I also didn't question whether they made sense, and then I just accepted that they were good twists because the game framed them like they were good twists, and then I just believed them,
that
and
definitely-
then that made me think it was a good story.
it is tricky to get a critical perspective of story in that sense. I just, as I mentioned, I seem to mention it every podcast. I'm playing New Vegas, and I went to a place called it's the White Glove Society. I don't remember the name of the casino, but it's like an hour. It's basically a little DLC, but it's the main game. It's like an hour of a whole sort of isolated storyline that is in there, And if you're playing that and looking at what people are telling you, and what's going on, and you do the quest, you get to the end of the quest, and you're like, okay, well, I did the quest, and that was a little story. But there's so much detail if you're critical of what they tell you. Like, for just as an example, you meet right at the beginning of that casino, you meet this Brahmin baron, or basically cattle rancher, and he comes all the way from California to Nevada.
Sacramento, California.
I don't remember where exactly, but he goes all the way there to meet with this little casino, and he says that they control the food distribution around here. And when I heard that, like, he says it confidently, and he is confident about it. That's in character, and that's correct for him to say that. But he says it confidently. So if you're not being critical, you don't think about it. But then if you are, you think, wait, do they actually? I mean, they don't. Like, the NCR, like the big factions, they control the food distribution, even inside the city. Most of it comes from Freeside, or the other part of town, basically. So it's not correct when he says that. But because I had that sort of criticism, it's not really it isn't criticism, it's just a critical mind. I had that at the back of my head. And later on, I talked to another character that puts it in a different perspective. She says, we have him here because we need the best food in town, and our food needs to be the best in town because they're all uppity, and they're like, we need exclusivity and all that, and we need people to look up to us and want to be us and all that. So she's very, very stuck up. But the way she talks about it, basically what he means by they control the food around here, what he means is that they control the very good food around here. They're the only one that have the food. But he says it in a way that you don't get that if you're not being critical. You don't get that little subtext. And the whole White Glove Society, I thought, was incredibly well written, but I could only get there by being critical of it, by looking at it with an active eye instead of a passive eye. And that happens a lot in games. Doing that live, that's very difficult.
Yeah, that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. Is like it is tough to. And again, I get why people would be so knee-jerk reaction to that kind of assessment of something really quickly, is because they assume, most of the time these people are coming in with way more insight than you are in this like first or fifth episode into something. Yeah. And they've like played the game 7 times. They know everything in and out of it, and they're seeing this like dismissive of the game, and it's like, oh no, they're not going to get to the part where I think is going to be the critical point where they change their opinion and come to like it.
They always think there's going to be a magic moment where you're going to completely have a different opinion.
Zero Escape is a perfect example of that. People there's always this like, there is one of the games is going to be the one that makes us like Zero Escape, and it's like, no, you don't get it. It failed from the moment it started running. It literally ran with its shoes tied together, and it will never recover. Like, you cannot make a good Zero Escape game because that is hypocritical to the, like, that's, I don't know, you just can't. If the guy who wrote 999 is in any part of producing the other two, you cannot make a good game then. He can't be there. He is the crux that's keeping that game in the dumpster. Like, he can't write a good story.
I don't know, maybe
like,
AI Somnium Files is Game of the Year.
Yeah, because, and then the best part was, the guy who wrote Zero Escape, such a good writer. Let's put him with the guy who wrote Danganronpa, such a good writer. I was like, are you like, what is wrong with you? How do you build it? Could you imagine someone making a factory that all it does is produce poop? Like, that's what you've done. You create a factory that just creates poop. How did you do this? It's like, but they're going to come together and make an interesting story. I'm like, let me guess. It's going to have a bunch of ass-pull bullshit sci-fi crap and way too many characters I'm not going to care about. And it's like,
999,
it's that. Like,
999 worked really well up until the moment they started to assign different made-up names to everybody right in the first group meetup, when they say, my name is Clover, but I'm just going to go by, is she the one that changes her name immediately?
I think her real name. I think Clover's her real name. She like gives it away.
It's her real name.
She just goes by Clover.
7? What was the name? There was that guy that's annoying.
7 didn't know what his name was. You're thinking Santa.
Santa, that's one.
There's a guy that calls himself Santa for hard to explain reasons.
I think that's when the game showed its first hand of
No,
okay,
remember,
this is how it's going to
because
be.
Santa says ho 3 times. Ho, ho, ho.
Wow.
There's a lot of badly
Was he
translated
pointing
jokes,
around the room? Remember that brief window
Wow!
Remember that brief window where we liked Danganronpa? For like a month, because we were watching the anime on a weekly episode basis, and it's like, wow, this is an interesting setup. I like how this. Then like the twists started happening, and none of them were satisfying. Every single one was infuriating. Like it would, like I don't feel like randomly spoiling Danganronpa right now, but it was just every single one felt like a completely insane ass pull that came from nowhere, and there was like 10. I feel like there was like a 10 of them in a row, and then it was like, this is all right. It's like Family Guy jokes where they're just non sequiturs, but they're supposed to be twists.
There's a lot of writers like that, isn't there? Like they just feel the need.
Danganronpa like kind of did like a weird Gurren Lagann version of it, where it's like, all right, we're gonna keep going until we get to the penultimate twist, and like the final twist of it, which is like revealing who was behind it all, was like,
that was very infuriating. But there was also several really bad ones before that.
Yeah,
where I'm just like,
you're just like, all right, I was kind of already checked out, but now you kind of just shot me in the back of the head, and I'm gone. Like I can't do this anymore.
Wow.
I'm out. Like, how am I supposed to take this with a serious face? What the hell is this shit?
Because Gurren Lagann is
some people
ridiculous from the
claim
start.
that the game is better, which it probably is, if for no other reason than just having more.
It's
so
just
it's
longer.
like not as
yeah,
rushed.
they just have more time to not rush to a shitty ass ending.
Not only
which
are
is
the twists forever spoiled, but also I kind of don't believe them after all the other times they've said that.
Yeah, that's the
always the
problem.
crux.
Like, it's not just about, you can't just fire the writer. You need to fire everybody that thought the writer was good.
Yeah.
All of them need to go, shoot, no more.
Well,
Like,
I mean, you can't get rid of Spike Chunsoft. Who else is going to make bad visual
Did
novels?
he,
If
did he
they're
like
gone?
999? If he did, I mean, I got bad news for you. No, what I'm saying is, like, there's this weird need that I feel some writers have of just we were sort of talking before we started recording. We were sort of talking about it a little, or I was thinking about it when we were talking about Doom Eternal. Of course, this was off camera. There's the need of writer to come up with more stuff to tell, and just, oh look, and now this stuff happened, and now this stuff was different, and bet you didn't see that coming. That's not how I don't think. I don't understand how people get to that point when they decide to write a novel or write anything really, because that's not what writing is about. You're like, you can have stories about that, but you need to. It's a lot harder to pull it off, because basic fundamental storytelling has more to do with how you control the expectations of the audience than what you're actually delivering. It's like, think about a story around like a spooky story around the fireplace. That's the most fundamental storytelling. It's simple. It's a single punchline. It's simple, but that's how you hone. If you get used to that, that's how you hone telling a story. And in writing, it's obviously different, because the reader has the control, and in gaming, it's the same thing as the control of the pacing. And if they want to stop, if they want to go back and read, but to a large extent, it's still the same premises. You don't need to come up with all these, oh, now he's a robot, and now he lost his memory, and he's his own son, and oh, time travel now. Oh my God.
We're kind of in the middle of like an era of like cataclysmically bad writing moments happening, and like in not only just games, but like entire franchises and television shows and movie things and so on, all ending in like horrifyingly bad ways. That completely poisons the whole well of you ever enjoying any of the previous elements of it retroactively in many cases. Like in the cases like Supernatural and Game of Thrones and the Star Wars sequel trilogy and so on. And then we're like, we didn't realize how bad things could get. Like we all saw the prequel trilogy of Star Wars and we're like, well, these aren't very good. And that we thought that was the bar. That was like the floor of how bad things could get. And then like Rise of Skywalker happens. And then like we keep having a series of shows that end like impossibly badly. And then thinking we're done, only to have another show 6 months later end impossibly badly again, and so on. and it just keeps like I have like I was not invested in the show. I didn't watch it, but although I'm getting a little invested in a weird sort of way because fucking I think is it Grimbeard? I think Grimbeard or somebody is doing like a episode by episode review of all of Supernatural, and they're like 4 episodes in, and those are funny little videos to watch. But I've seen at this point like 3 video essays just about Destiel and the ending of Supernatural and just the cataclysmic collapse of that show. And then you have Sherlock, which I experienced firsthand. And oh my
awful.
God, Sherlock season 4 and its finale in particular it felt like unprecedentedly bad. And then you have, of course, like Game of Thrones, which at least you can understand how it happened, which is that like they ran out of books, and then also the creators wanted to jump ship and end the show too quickly. So you get like a weird Spark Notes version of the show where the final season has a series of events that in the abstract would make sense if you're just summarizing the plot of a better show, but that summary is the whole season. Like it's just bullet points without connective tissue and earning the events that are happening, and it's just a disaster. So by the time you get to the ending, you're like, "What?"
It's not as bad as Sherlock, though.
It's not as bad as Sherlock, but it's still pretty incredibly bad. And then you have Rise of Skywalker, which is Sherlock tier. Like it is very much that level of like how. I don't understand how this was made. I don't understand how something so expensive and it was so much pressure for it to be good, and so many people clearly invested in making it good, and they have to stick the landing. How you all collectively shit the bed this hard. And there's been so many of those lately that it makes me gun shy about all of media in some ways. Like one of the only things is like Better Call Saul is like the only show on TV I trust to not fuck it up. Let's see if this goes on fucking poorly aged Blinks the Cat Twitter account. This fucking this fucking podcast quote just goes right on there.
But I don't think it has happened with games too much, though. I think not in the sense of.
It happened to Mass Effect twice.
It's doing it to the plot of Halo right now.
Oh, yeah. Halo's fucked. Oh, no. God.
So here's the thing. People write a lot of stories with an ending in mind, but endings aren't profitable.
Yeah,
so
I was going to say.
You don't want to end
push them
something
off forever.
So you don't want to end something if people like something, which is like a good example of this is One Piece, where arguably One Piece could have ended like 20 years ago, and we probably would have.
Is it
been
still
fine
going
with it? Yeah,
is it the one that's still going? Oh my god, I thought it was the other one.
It's the only one of the big 3 that's still moving along. The Naruto creator literally just got his most recent series canceled because he's not good enough anymore.
He never was. I'm calling it right now. Naruto sucks.
Oh, you mean like
over.
a samurai thing that got canceled, huh?
Yeah.
I get all my manga news from Super Eye Patch Wolf.
Yeah. His stuff. Because his new series. Well, I mean, I get it. It was boring as shit, but it got canceled, and so like Oda's the only, and like Kubo published his weird little fucking witch thing, but not really because he's Kubo and he's actually a bad writer, so he doesn't have a plot. He just wrote some cool little one shot, and everyone got super hyped because it's Kubo, but there's nothing there. He has no substance to go with because he's a bad writer.
Aww.
Oda's like the only guy still trucking along from the big 3, and he could have ended like 2 decades ago, and it probably would have still been a good story.
But it's just he's going on a rollicking. At some point, that franchise transcended into being a Doctor Who, where it just is the Eternity franchise.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument to be made that like One Piece could just be, because the argument is that there's little islands, and each island's its own self-enclosed world, and each island you could have millions of these islands. I mean, the difference being that like Oda isn't a monster. He's aware of like the commercialism, but he's not a human trash bag. And he's like, look, I'm not gonna let it go forever. I'm gonna end it. When I
as somebody who read
it,
One Piece at the beginning at least and understands basic story signposting, I thought the grand line was going to be the ending.
It is the ending.
That's clearly how it's framed. But they get to the grand line in like 20 years ago. Like they've been at the Grand Line, or I don't even know what the story is now, but like the Grand Line is a milestone in the distant fucking rearview mirror.
So you went first. You were in the Blues.
Because
So
that was
there's
just like the island arc or whatever, where the more important pirating happens, and that's it. That was just a basic milestone, not the ending.
For a very quick One Piece geography lesson, because we're
the One Piece is the friends you made along the way.
But so in One Piece geography land, there are four seas. They're each corners of the sea: north, south, east, blue.
We're back to
these
geography.
are calm seas. Yeah, we're back to geography. They're the four seas. This is where you start out. You start out in East Blue. And the nice thing about the East Blue Seas are that they are surrounded by a calm belt, which means that people can't come in and go. Like, I can't travel from north to east because there's a calm belt in between where boats can't travel through unless they have some kind of non-wind-based propulsion system, and which is only owned by like the Navy because they have the money to do it. Any
Water
case,
lore.
So that exists, and so from there, all of them connect to what is called the upstream mountain, which brings you to the Grand Line. And the Grand Line is literally in the center of the... So the planet's made of 90% water and 10% islands. And
Water
so
world.
in the center of that, like basically the equator, think of the equator. The equator has both the Grand Line and the New World inside of it. And the New World is just is like just the back end of the upstream current. So to put it in perspective, you take a route to go up a mountain to go into the equator. You go through the equator, and the mountain that you climbed up reaches all the way around the world, and you get to that other end of the mountain, and you go around that mountain, either above it or below it, depending on what social status you have. And once you get to the other side, then you continue on to the New World, which then ends at which will then end where the blue seas are. And so the end of it is basically where it began. And
to
so
go
that's
around
like,
the world, basically.
Yeah, basically the journey is around the world. And so that's like the Grand Line.
And it
should have
turns
been
out
the end
they've been leaving a thread behind them this entire time, and once they get back to where they started, it'll join and it'll become the One Piece. Because we're all one piece when you get down to it, man.
So the One Piece in theory is like that continents used to exist, and that there was a cataclysmic event during the Dark Ages that is
They're
no
gonna
longer
find the
recorded in
magic
history.
relic that merges all of the land back together in a cataclysm.
No, it's not about
Ending
fixing
all
the
life
world.
on man.
It's about explaining the world. Like that's the thing is like the theory in One Piece is that One Piece is actually just the history that's missing. It's just because there's a piece.
Is there any in-universe text about what the One Piece is, or is this the fan theory?
So there is text in the world that talks about One Piece. So we've kind of been like over the past I guess you could call it a decade, but it's probably been more like 5 years. Over the past 5 years, we've been getting a lot more hints. Oda's like, all right, guys, this is the home stretch. We're gonna start talking about shit now.
Because I think
It's
all the way
starting to
up
feel
all the way up to Candleman, there was not even a single hint at what the title even was.
It's starting to feel like the last DLC of Dark Souls 3, where they mention Dark Soul again, and you're like, ooh,
the Dark Soul.
Exactly. So the idea is like in the beginning, especially during the Grand Line. The Grand Line is a lot of build up to basically the rest of the game, or the rest of the story's mechanics, which is go to island. Island is thing. Move on to next island. Because East Blue is very consistent with its islands. Like they're all just normal islands with people living on them. But then the moment you get to the Grand Line, everything gets to be like a funny, wacky Willy Wonka land. You get to like one place it's full of fucking dinosaurs, and you get to the next place it's just Arabian Nights, and then you go to the next place it's like snow only. It's weird. The Grand Line's just a weird, fun, crazy mess. But like halfway through the Grand Line, you start getting drops. You start getting like little crumbs called phonoglyphs. And phonoglyphs are basically if someone wrote tablets in Latin and then the government killed everybody who knew how to speak Latin, and that's what they are. And so there is like a law. You are not allowed to read these phonoglyphs. You cannot learn the language of it. The last people who did got completely exterminated, like they got genocided, because you're not allowed to read these.
You gotta fez it. You gotta find the brown fox jumps over the lazy
So
frog,
yeah.
whatever the rest of it.
I don't remember, but that's the goal. Is like one of the crew members on the ship, Nico Robin, is an archaeologist, so she knows how to read the language, and she's interested in finding out the history because she wants to know what happened in between this time, because that's her passion. So she's just that's literally the only reason she's even wanted as a person. Like, she has a bounty on her head because she knows how to speak a language. And so, like, the story is you just following along, doing a fun adventure. And sometimes these islands just happen to have these blocks that can be read by her, and they have history on them, and she explains them, and like they talk about stuff.
It's the in-universe ARG.
Yeah, they give you like context about this world that like sounds really fucking cool. Like, people lived on the moon, and those moon people showed up to the Earth, and there was a war, and the war is like something, I don't know, no one knows what happened, and then the world government existed. Like, that's it. There's like this weird stretch where like, all right, well, we descended from moon people, and then we had these 3 weapons, and then the world government existed, and then that's it. And then there's like this huge gap in history of like, well, what happened with the weapons? Who used them? What do they mean? And like, everyone has different relations to the weapons. Like Frankie, when you meet Frankie, he has the blueprints to one of the weapons. He has it in his body, just the blueprints to build a world-ending, devastating weapon, and he just burns them. And like, there's no questions about it. You don't follow through. You don't ask like, well, what was that? Because the characters don't care. The characters genuinely don't care about this weird external world.
Yeah, like it's a lore that doesn't affect the story of any of the actual people that you're following. Yeah. So it's just like incidental.
So it's but it's like fun little background stuff. And the goal here is like the ultimate end of the story of One Piece is always going to be Luffy has a fun fucking adventure. He gets to be king of the pirates. His dream comes true. That's the whole fucking thing. Like,
wait, he's been at for 20 years. He still hasn't become the king of the pirates.
No,
there's a lot of pirates.
The shit out of a lot of people. Yeah, there's a lot of pirates.
There was that one like musketeer guy that could cut his ship in half.
I mean, right now, Luffy is literally beating the United States of America from their ownership over Japan. Like, that's what the plot is.
I thought there was a world government. How does this work?
No. So right now we're in the Wano arc, and Wano is just a 1-to-1 of Japan, and that's it. There's no mystery about it. It's just Japan, and it's owned by a pirate named Kaido and his 1,000 beasts. And Kaido is just like this impenetrable, monolithic giant man who can turn into a dragon. And
that sounds like he's gonna have a hard time beating that guy.
And that's just the United States. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's not a hidden allegory. It's very blatant that the idea here is that this unwanted intruder has come over and ruled over Japan, and it's his existence has caused Japan to lose being an interesting country.
It's
and
a little. I wonder what kind of cultural. I wonder what kind of cultural anchor point that is based on, because it reminds me of Code Geass, that also has a similar story where. I mean,
Oda likes to pick basically the joke is always that Oda has a board of really unfortunate things, and he throws a dart at it and just makes a story around it. So like one of his islands was about race, like just fucking bad racism. It basically just like fishmen are just supposed to be an allegory for minorities, and they're treated as like lower class beings. They're not allowed to come out on the land because nobody likes them. They look like fish. They're ugly. They're often enslaved and traded on a slave market that isn't legal but isn't frowned upon either. Like there's not like a secret allegory here. Like it's very obvious. Like, oh, I get what you're saying, Oda. Like, yeah, I know who these people are. And it's funny because the first time you meet a fisherman, he's a bad guy. Like they put the story gives you the context. Like fishermen are just bad
he's like
people.
The second villain.
Yes,
after
and they tell you why he's a villain.
The clown.
They give you after Buggy the clown. Buggy's the first one. But Arlong is the first fisherman you meet, and he is a bad guy. He's literally enslaving a town of people. But when you go to the fisherman arc, it does like a super like 180 on you.
He's like a sawtooth shark, I think.
Yeah, he's a sawtooth. And like the reason he's like that is because he was part of a pirate crew that basically was just a bunch of fishermen going around having a good time. They weren't doing like, they were pirates, but they weren't like crazy people. They weren't going around like subjugating people. They basically just went around and freed slaves. It was like their entire MO. They would go and steal slaves from the rich people. And they did this like entire thing. They saved a bunch of these slaves, and one of them they decided to bring back to her home country. And because it was a human. So there was a human, they were bringing her back, and the leader got killed, or not got killed, but he got shot trying to bring her back because the government was waiting to pounce on them for freeing the slaves, which they didn't. The world government's owned by the rich people, and the rich people own the slaves, and the slaves are not supposed to get escaped. So they sent the world government to go get the slaves back. And so the world government was waiting in ambush and shot him. And the whole thing was like, he could have survived, but he was racist. Like, the fishman was racist. He didn't like humans, and he refused to take human blood. And the story that spread around was that no human would give him blood to donate. And so all the fishermen had this preconception that like humans were the ones who killed this icon because they would not donate blood to him. And it was like not true, but no one wanted to trample on his name. And so like,
that's why he was a bad guy, basically.
Yeah, so you have this whole misconception, and like the guy who was there to witness it was
that's a little bit lame, though. I feel.
Oh, it's lame. The Fishman arc is a terrible arc
from a storytelling perspective. Because it's the old trope of like,
and that's why racism existed, because one event happened one day, and that created racism.
Because it didn't even happen. They just thought it did. We definitely didn't genocided and slave traded you all over the world. No, you thought they did. That's why you don't like us.
No. I mean, the idea is that the fishmen live with animosity towards the humans because of this event that they didn't think it happened.
But they have
the racism is real. Like, they are subjugated. They don't. Like,
but like it's sort of, they should live with animosity towards the humans because the humans are racist against them. So not because of something that didn't even happen.
Yeah, it's like Bright.
It's
sort of.
We're all racist against the orcs because they sided with the Dark Lord in unseen prologue text.
And so the idea is that, like, so Arlong took it. So there's two different angles from this. You have Jinbei and Arlong. Arlong took it in the negative direction, where he watched Fisher Tiger, which is the guy who got shot. He watched him reject the blood because of his racism, and he took that as meaning that human blood was not good enough to be put into fishmen. And so he took that as like the humans killed his captain, and he's going to get revenge on them because they weren't happy about them doing a good thing, which was freeing slaves. And so, but you have Jinbei on the other side who took it in a different direction, obviously, which is the idea that, like, nah, man, like, you're fucking racist. Like, just take the blood. You died because you were unwilling to look past a thing that not all humans do. Like, not all humans are bad humans. You watch this, you like helped humans connect with each other, and they were gracious for it. It's just that other external humans were not. There are bad people here. And so, like, you need to deal with that. And like, it paints kind of like a half-assed picture I don't like, which is like one of the crew members is obviously from the island that Arlong subjugated. And so the contention here is that Jinbei didn't stop Arlong from doing that. He just let him do that and knew that that was happening and had no say about it. He could have just walked over and just beat the fuck out of Arlong and moved on with his life. But he didn't. He just let him subjugate these humans. Because there's a part of Jinbei that also understood that. He like did have resentment about the fact that his captain died doing a good deed for humans. But it's boring, and I don't like it. I don't know. I don't like it. And like the resolution is really boring, which is like which is Luffy gets like incredibly wounded to the point where he's going to die, and Jinbei donates his blood to him. And that's like the way that they solve the problem. And I really don't like it. It's actually like the least favorite arc that I have is the Fishman arc, because it feels like there's a lot of good stuff that could be there. Because it talks a lot about really interesting stuff. Like the world government doesn't recognize the Fishman kingdom as a real kingdom because they're fishmen. And that's like an interesting point. That means they don't get protection from pirates by the government. But it also means they aren't subjugated to the rules of the government, which is cool because the government sucks, dude. And their rules are shitty because they all just exist to make the 1% better off. It's like it's only to make that world better for them. And so, there's a
So
lot
like
of
normal governments.
yeah, so there's like a lot of interesting pieces, but nothing connects it in an interesting way. Where Wano actually feels a lot more interesting, where Wano has a really cool, rich history, and its entire basis is about like the problems with external governments putting someone else in power. And so the idea is that like this pirate comes in, takes control, puts another person in control of the country, and the country just like, it's a puppet country. And so it goes to shit because it's just being exploited by this person who has no stake or care about this country's success or survival. And it's interesting because you don't get to see an island in that regard. You don't get to see an island that's like not being like an island's always at threat in some way. Like someone's either invading the island or someone is like a bad person on the island, but you don't get to see a weird political dynamic in an island like that. It's always very, childish. Like, oh, Crocodile's going to kill the leader and be the owner of this island now. And it's like, okay, sure, I guess. What a bad guy. I guess we got to stop him. But this is like an external thing. Like that, Kaido can just leave. He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't, like Wano doesn't matter to him. It's just a place to produce the arms he needs. If once it stops, he just moves on. He doesn't want to own Wano. He doesn't want the land. He just wants the people to do the thing that he needs from them, just so he can like move on and do whatever else. But then you have like alternative, which is like Don Flamingo and Dressrosa, which is a really boring arc too, and fucking came right after Fishman, which is like a wombo combo of pain.
Isn't that like early?
Well, yeah, but no, it's late. It's like so.
Oh, it's late. Okay.
So Fishman Island was like a 2-year arc. Dressrosa was a fucking 4-year arc. So you had a solid like 4, 5, 6 years of just bad One Piece arcs, and it's like, oh my fucking, can we please get out of this? What's happening?
I don't. It's gotta be. It's like it's seriously a different like economical scenario for series like those. Because if that happens in the US, like if your TV series is crap for a couple of years, then you get canceled.
Well, so the thing is like One Piece as a show continues to exist mostly on its like notoriety alone, because it's universal. I mean, like the idea is its targeted demographic is children between the ages of like 5 to 10 years old. That's why. Who it's for. And those
they grow
kids
out of it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Everyone in Japan, like it's, I'm being like superfluous, or not superfluous, but I'm being like, hyperbolic here. But like the joke is everybody in Japan has read One Piece at some point. Like it's at the point now that it's been going on for so long that everybody has at least read a chapter of One Piece, and that is important. That means something. Like that's not a thing to scoff about. That'd be like saying that everyone in the United States has seen an episode of The Simpsons, and that's crazy.
It's actually, that's a good point. The Simpsons is kind of analogous in many ways.
But not every American has ever watched an episode of The Simpsons. But like there is a thing to be made that like, yes, trust me, I'm positive there are some people who just don't even have cable in this country because we just have fucking problems. But the
you should have public television because that's.
But it's not public; it's Fox owned, so you wouldn't see it there. But like, also, some people can't get public television because coaxial cable lines don't necessarily run to all points in the United States because we don't have a good infrastructure support system, because we fucking don't follow through on the money we give to companies, and they just free market excuse their way out of fucking doing things. It's okay. Telecommunication companies are fucking scams.
Wait,
but,
you don't get TV coverage all over the United States?
No, not every home in the United States has coaxial cable running to it, meaning they cannot have television. They'd have to get satellite, and satellite is a third-party provider not provided by the government, and there's no public access available television for all United States citizens. That's also the reason why Elon Musk is doing his shitty Satlink thing, is because the idea is that satellite internet coverage in most of the United States, that isn't in a major city, is dog shit bad. It's still in the dial-up era, and there is no incentive to make broadband speeds for it because, 1, that's a lot of money. 2, fuck those people. They chose to live in the boonies. And 3, fuck those people.
Well,
they live in the boonies.
The thing is, like you say, coaxial cable running to a house. Don't you have to have an antenna at least? Yeah, like if you want to have like.
So you can do it. So you can do an HD Oh, so it depends. Again,
Well, these
it
days
depends.
it's different.
So some,
yeah.
So it's by state. So not all states have adopted the HD standard for broadcasting, and so that means that some of the major cities, some of them have moved over to an HD only signal, which means there's a lot of people in rural areas that need to buy an HD receiver and an analog receiver to receive their television. Which again, these are not cheap or inconsequential things that you have to expect people to purchase just so they can have access to basic visual information about the world going on around them. But Japan doesn't have that issue because Japan is an island that actually invests a lot of money in their infrastructure and gives a shit about the ability for their people to communicate and work together in a cohesive, collaborative effort. So everybody has access to seeing One Piece is on television. Everybody has access to seeing One Piece because it's on a fucking billboard somewhere in the goddamn country. And it's every bookstore, and it's every television, it's every, One Piece is prolific. And so it's crazy, but that's why it has existed for as long as it does. But it doesn't mean it's the most successful, which is also weird. Like One Piece itself didn't technically sell the most, I'm sure Keith saw the Super Eye Patch Wolf video that he just did recently, talking about the state of Shonen Jump in terms of financial. Like One Piece isn't at the top. It's not making the most money. And that's normal because, there's other manga, guys. There's a lot of other manga out there. But something about One Piece, because of its variety, because of its refusal to stick to one particular genre of world, is what has made it so universally hard to move away from. Because each arc is in its own different Candyland-esque world. It's it's easy to you can show up and be like, hey man, I know you don't really like fish people, but you should watch this one about where they're on a planet full of candy. Literally, there is a whole island of just made of candy. There's a Candyland island. Come on, man. That's crazy weird. How the fuck do you explain that to somebody when the first episode of One Piece is a kid popping out of a barrel punching a fat woman into the ocean? What? What's happening? How did we get here? What's going on? One Piece is weird. It's a weird show, and it has a lot of weird. It touches a lot of weird subjects that it doesn't feel like it should for a weird, wacky, zany, let's have fun pirate adventure. And geography is just one part of that weird thing. One Piece has geological problems with it. There are weird issues that people have to overcome because of the world and how it is built and how it is sectioned off. And at the same time, that sectioning off is supposed to be a great indicator of pacing. So we're almost through the Grand Line. We're gonna be done, right? And the Oda's you probably gotta make this mortgage though. Let's go to a whole other section of the island. There's 15 more islands on the other side of this mountain. Shit. And so I don't know. It's One Piece is funny. One Piece was supposed to be over I know it was supposed to be over 15 years ago because there's an interview with one of the editors who was yeah, Oda said that he has the ending done. He's ready to go. We're getting close. And then Shonen Jump had some problems with series and commitments to them. And so there's been a lot of incentive to not lose One Piece. It's a very strong, consistent, and steady.
Yeah, it's been
income.
the top earner for an eternity now until recently.
And it's been going on forever, which means that's again, Shonen Jump is a weekly publication and a very cheap one at that. And so the idea is that you want to maximize your profit. So the more people buying Shonen Jump every week, the better. And if you keep having this series that's going on for a fucking millennia, then you get two avenues of income. Either people are buying weekly Shonen Jump to keep up with it, or best case, they're buying the volumes from the manga. And either way, there's a lot of money to be made with One Piece. And then that's not even to mention merchandising, anime sales, the TV spots for it. We don't get all the commercials for One Piece stuff. They sell razors and candy and whatever all has One Piece on it. Americans have the same thing. We have tons of stuff. It's Disney. You see commercials with Disney stuff, or you see commercial. We get that.
Try
too.
this Elsa candy bar.
Yeah, it's like a Disney's probably the best example.
This
like, in the
monster has
United
Call of
States,
Duty on it.
in the United States, it's very unlikely that a single person here has never heard of Disneyland or Disney of some kind. They've either heard of a Disney movie
Captain
or
America,
Mickey Mouse,
Lufa.
or yeah, like, and that's the thing. Disney is so big too. You can kind of even argue like the people who try to live their life in a bubble, where it's like, no, I only watch adult sci-fi. It's like, well, have you heard of Star Wars? It's fucking Disney now, nerd. Haha. And it's like you can't escape the Disney. And like Shonen Jump is that way in Japan, where like it's really hard to say you've never encountered a shonen series in Japan. Like you've encountered it one way or another. You've either seen it on television, read a book, or it's right there in your face being advertised to you. And One Piece is kind of just good at that. It's really good at doing that somehow. It could just get in people's faces all the time, and it does it globally, and it's scary and weird. And
Popular stuff's weird. It just kind of self-perpetuates at some point.
I can't wait till it's over, honestly. I want One Piece to end because I want to see a post One Piece world. I want to see like what is that like?
Here come the
is
One Piece likes.
It's been, but it's like even for me, I've been reading One Piece for 25 years. Like 25 years of my life has been dedicated to following a series that there are times where like I've been in situations that I've thought to myself like I may die before this series ends. Like I may not live long enough to see the end of One Piece, and that's kind of rough. But then there's other times where I go like, shit, maybe I will only live until One Piece ends. I may die the moment it ends. Like maybe I'm only holding on this long is because I'm waiting for the fucking end of this thing.
Yeah.
So it's keeping you here.
I thought I was reading a forever franchise, but then it just ended.
Naruto?
No. I have experienced no Naruto beyond the Chunin exams.
All right, you never know what happened to Rock Lee.
Yeah, no, it ends with Rock Lee's surgery. That's the end of all of Naruto for me. Just like how Bleach ends when they save Rukia in season 2, and that's the end of all of Bleach, which is probably for the best. But no, it was the big fucking surprise fucking baller ass move that Walking Dead pulled. Was just one day they're like, hey, surprise! By the way, this is the final issue.
Oh,
They put out like a surprise. I think the final issue of Walking Dead was like 100 pages long, when it's normally like a 22-page comic, I think. And it was just like, yeah, this is the end. Surprise. It like wraps up the arc they were currently in, then abruptly cuts to an epilogue like 10 years later of like how the world is like in the future, and then it just ends. It's just the end. It was not advertised. No one knew in the previous issue that the next one would be the end of the entire run. It was just surprise one day that this is the final issue of Walking Dead, and it's huge, and it just ended one day.
I don't think I could take that. I don't think if One Piece ended, if I read a chapter and I got to the end of the chapter and so like that was it, thanks for reading One Piece, I think I would fucking die. I think I'd have a heart attack. I'd be like, what? Wait, what? No, what?
There's anime that is a little bit like that. At least it feels like it.
I don't know, man. That's like
it just ends in
Walking
middle.
Dead. I don't know. Like, yeah, you go on if you're going on for that long, it's weird to like something just ends. It abruptly just goes away.
Well, we're starting
better?
that arc now in the show, but was it called Brand New World? No, the Brand New World is when they encountered new factions, I think, that involved Negan and everything. But it's more to the future arc, essentially. It's like they encounter a society that actually seems like it has legs and a new government, and it's kind of this back and forth pull of like, oh no, is this going to be us rebuilding society? But like, are they just going to rebuild society as being the same as last time? Like, it's interesting because it poses that question of like, wait, if we are going to successfully defeat, like rise above all the endless tribes that are fighting each other in Walking Dead, and also like reestablish a world order again, but also rise above the whole zombie apocalypse stuff and kind of get back to normalcy on some level. Are we just gonna is it good enough just to accomplish going back to the way things were, or should they be aspiring for something better than the world that was destroyed? which is a way more interesting thing to kind of end the show on. Then they like climactically kill some characters, then jump forward in the future and see the epilogue from the perspective of the younger characters that were either were children or were barely born over the span of Walking Dead, and they're like the main characters of the epilogue, and it's like they're inheriting the new world, which is an interesting way to end things. It's gonna be pretty fucked when they figure out how to do it if they try to do it in the show, where basically every character important to that storyline is gone or dead. It's like
that's weird. That's weird because
that's how you get a Full Metal Alchemist ending. And then we opened a portal and went to World War II. Like
that's like the ending of Blackadder. Well,
I can spoil the end of the comic if you want to understand how fucked the show is on that aspect, because it's kind of fascinating.
I'm fine.
Sure.
I don't have.
I'm fine with it as well.
Skip ahead if you don't want to get the end of the comic spoiled. This will not quite spoil the end of the show, but it will in some ways, maybe if they go certain ways. But part of the game here, the meta game here, if you read Walking Dead and then watch it, is trying to figure out what the fuck they're going to do with the show, because the show has continually has problems with the part where they improvise certain things, but also like. It was originally made by the guy who made The Wire, and he had a bunch of actors from The Wire on the show. But then he got fired because they wanted him to do season 2, to make it twice as long for half as much money. And he's like, the fuck? And then they fired him and got somebody that would do it for cheaper. And that's why season 2 was trash, among other things. But also all these people that were there for that director and that showrunner all wanted off the show. So all their characters got killed so they could leave the show. And so from day one, there's been a problem where the entire cast is shuffled around in Walking Dead, and it's just a weird mess. And it's like, what are they going to do? They're going to try to do the same story arcs on some level, but half the characters that were there for that just aren't around for various reasons. So what are they going to do with that? And we've officially hit Ship of Theseus mode, where almost every cast member of the original show is long gone at this point. All the way down to the main characters potentially being what are arguably the main characters of the show have all left the show at this point. So it's basically like from the original cast, we just have Carol and Daryl, and amusingly, Carol's a character who dies really early in the comic. So she's the reverse of this, where she's a character that's being kept alive forever, and she's not even supposed to be here. And then Daryl's a character they made up for the show, so he's also not from the comic. And so there's just this ongoing mess. But the comic ends with they encounter this new world, and it has what's fucked about this world is that they reintroduced class. Like there's a high society and a low society, and there's just the way that things work, and a bunch of people in that society that are just putting up with it specifically because of the fact that it's obviously better than outside of the city walls at that point, and it's not. And there aren't really like plot twists of like surprise barbarism. Like whenever there's anything that seems to kind of be working, it always goes really badly. Like I don't remember it exactly, but I remember like they encounter the governor in like the second or third story arc or whatever of the comic and the show. And it's like, oh, it's this walled off community, and it seems like a nice little Western town, and everyone's got a place in life, and they're protected, and things are good. And like the governor like fucking chops Rick's hand off, which has been a perpetual problem that the writers had to go around forever because the comic went on for so long, and Rick didn't have a fucking hand throughout the whole thing. But like, oh no, the governor's bad, and here's the twist. Like there's very little like heel turn. It's like, oh no, this place. Like, it is kind of what it says in the tin. It's not some massive nightmare. It's not Negan. It's not the governor. So it's like there's not as much to rally against. But there's still, like, clearly something wrong here, because it's the return to the old world. And there's this clear idea of, like, but do we want that back? Do we want this whole fucking, like, 1% versus the have-nots thing reintroduced? Like, is that really the thing we want to go with? And there's people that are rebelling against that and see that as wrong and so on. But like it becomes primarily a conflict between Rick and to some extent Michonne, because God, what's his name? Not Daryl, the guy that has his face ironed off. That's how you met him. Is his face is like ironed off by Negan, so he's got like this big facial scars. And like Michonne finally finds her daughter's there, like, oh my god, they survived the apocalypse and they were actually here the whole time. So it's like she's getting pulled into this idea where like she can like she's the one that's most likely to be assimilated back into this world where she's like, my children are here, I can go back to having a family, I can be a lawyer here, I can be a lawyer in this new city, which is because I was a lawyer back before the world. Like she could just slip right back into her old role and just give up on everything that's happened and put all of the Walking Dead behind her and be done with that. And like that's like heaven essentially. And then Rick's caught between that and the fact that the like Iron Face guy is going on about how like this is clearly a world first full of horrible injustices, and they're just trying to recreate the bad of what was there before, and we should be better than that. And it's one of those situations where he's right, but he's being way too aggressive about it. So like he's going to like cause a big problem and get killed for just going about it the wrong way, essentially, or at least what they deem to be the wrong way. So it's that kind of shitty situation where Rick's gonna kind of agree with him, but also end up having to kill him in that situation. But like, so here's the issue though: is like Rick has left the show, and Michonne's left the show. And Iron Face guy went across the entire country to the Fear the Walking Dead location and is in the spinoff now. So he's not in the main show either. So all three of these characters are not in the main show. But then on top of this, fucking like after, so in the comic, Rick gets in the comic, Rick's the leader of this world has a shitty little spoiled brat of a son, and Rick is threatening their way of life by rocking the boat here. So this guy sneaks into his fucking bedroom at night and kills him. He kills Rick, the main character of the comic. Like in the shocking reveal, like mid-sentence, he just fucking kills him, and that's it. Like that's because just like anybody else, Rick can just die, and that does not go over well with several characters, and they kind of take over, and they kind of like reassert, they kind of assert their own power of the situation, and this guy ends up in jail. I think Carl goes for his big revenge, but ultimately just imprisons him, and he just essentially goes to that jail to taunt him every day, and he's gonna he's essentially
on camera
because the guy that killed Rick is just gonna be living out the rest of his days as a murderer, and just sitting in jail. They flash the future, and it's Glenn Jr., the son of Glenn and Maggie, and he was born in the zombie apocalypse but was too young to experience it. So he's like, as this like 18-year-old or whatever, he like runs like a circus show essentially, where he rounds up what few Walking Dead can be like rounded up out in the countryside, and he like brings them into the middle of town and like parades them around as like a freak show, as as a curiosity, because like everyone's so desensitized and so detached from the original threat now because it's so far in the future. And Carl can't handle that, and he sneaks in and kills Glenn's things. So it's like this legal battle where like Carl is like he's seen as this out of touch old man that doesn't respect property and goes after like these Walking Dead things, and like he's essentially doing crimes because he killed the zombies that were Glenn Jr.'s property. So Michonne is like the judge, and like it's like this like weird, just like he gets a lenient thing, and he gets let off the hook more or less. But it's like this big impassioned speech about like the state of the world and how people have moved on and don't see the threat and so on, and it's just kind of this surreal like seeing the future kind of read on all of it. But like it's Carl is like goes on patrols with his partner Sophia, who died in season 2 of the show. And like Carl died in like season 6 of the show, and Michonne's not in the show. And like every one of these characters is not in the show. They've all died or left in various ways.
Oh, I see what you mean.
I think Glenn Jr. is technically going to be back. So many
they can just write new characters.
So many characters
use the ones that they have.
So many characters have like been killed or rearranged in various ways. But in one of the weirdest things of the show, Maggie just vanished between seasons. like she didn't die, but she just vanished because like they had some sort of negotiation problem with the actress, and so she just out of existence, even though she was the mayor of one of the locations. Like for an entire season vanished. So, and she was pregnant. So she's out there somewhere with Glenn Jr. for some reason, and they're gonna have to, when she comes back, they're gonna have to explain what the fuck that was about somehow, and they're gonna have to do that in a world where like Michonne and Rick and all these other characters are gone, and it's like, what do we do? What do you do with this? So Glenn Jr. can technically be in the epilogue, but aside from that, it'll have to be all new characters, like exclusively. And this is funny because like there's even in the storyline they were just doing, which is with the alpha and the beta and so on, which is like these it's like the whisperers. They're these zombie people that wear zombie skin and they blend in with the zombies, which is a mechanic established from the first arc, was that you could like cover yourself in zombie gore and blend in with them, and like something about like the presentation and the smell or whatever like makes you pass if you behave zombie enough, like. But it's like it's supposed to
say anything words or anything, you're like, wait a minute.
But it's supposed to be like it's supposed to be kind of dangerous or it feels dangerous because you're covering yourself in the stuff that could get you like if you get bit by a zombie in this universe, you don't turn into a zombie. Anyone who dies turns into a zombie. So if you get bit by a zombie, it's just so incredibly dangerous, like it's so venomous or whatever the fuck that it will, like the zombie bites kill you. That's what they do mechanically, and then dying of anything makes you a zombie. That's the Walking Dead setting. So it's so the idea of covering yourself in zombie guts seems like it would, like there's a decent risk of like an infection that would kill you. So it's like a mechanic they use really sparingly. But there's this whole group that's like mastered that, and they're called the Whisperers, and they're the Whisperers because they whisper quietly enough that the zombies with their shitty hearing don't hear them. Then that's how they communicate with each other, and they herd the zombies around and use them as a force, like as an army, because the zombies move in herds in this thing, and they're stupid and follow each other basically. So if you pretend to be one of them, you can literally send a zombie army at a village and just wipe them out and stuff like that. Like, but specifically the daughter of their leader gets captured by the survivors in Walking Dead. This is before the epilogue, and it's before the future society storyline. If they get captured, she gets captured by them, and then kind of like gets to witness what other people live like, because she grew up with her mom and the leadership of that organization, and she had just accepted that that's what life was like now. So seeing people like have families and hobbies and jobs and live inside of walls and not, being a fucking zombie impersonator to survive, was a bit of a culture shock for her. But it's supposed to be this whole thing where like everybody mistrusts her and everybody won't deal with her, and everyone hates her because of the horrible things that have happened, because of the literally a bunch of people's heads are all on spikes because the Alpha snuck in and killed a bunch of people and decapitated them and put their heads on spikes to mark their territory, and including several major characters. So they're not happy with those people. So their daughter's super untrusted, but Carl specifically, with his eye socket ripped out and all that, that's because he's got shot in the eye, and that's the version of Carl we have at that point. He like keeps talking to her through the bars, and they kind of bond, and they kind of like gain a rapport and trust and so on, and some risks are taken. And so he's kind of the one that successfully like reintroduces her to society and kind of helps gain her trust over time and all that. But he's dead already before that part of the show. So they made up a new character that was like the adopted son of Carol. And that guy stood in for that story arc for that season just to be the proto Carl, because they just killed Carl last season. So they had to make a new Carl just to do that.
The adopted son.
So they'll totally do that type of shit with the fucking epilogue. They'll have to just like make up new characters from almost all of the roles. Yep. Like, and I can see it being like, okay, like Carol's going to be the one that's threatened with the idea of going back to old society, and Daryl's going to be the one that's like, no, we can't do that, blah, 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 blah. And it'll be a conflict between those two because they're the only two main characters left. But it'll be another, a thing that keeps happening in Walking Dead is that characters just adopt the traits of comic characters that are different people because the real character's not there anymore. Like Carol herself is just based on, what's her name? she's been gone for so long that I don't remember her name, but she's the actress from Silent Hill that played the cop.
Lauren Cohen.
Yeah, Lauren. Yeah, that actress. Was her? I can't remember the character's name.
I found her in Supernatural. She plays Ruby, I believe.
Oh no, that's Maggie. That's Maggie from Supernatural.
Oh, that's Maggie.
Yeah,
right.
No, the blonde woman that everybody hated from season 2, and then she died. She's actually like one of the biggest badasses in the entire comic, and she lasted an incredibly long time. And Carol just is her, because Carol in the comic,
Carol, right?
Carol in the comic is just a random member of the group that barely did anything, and then one day she wants to enter into a polyamorous relationship with Rick and his wife, and then when they reject her, she commits suicide by letting a zombie bite her neck. That's her character. She's one of the main characters of the show, and none of that happened. they only kept like her abusive backstory, and that's it. And so she just is that character now. She just is the blonde character, and she's the cool shooty, dangerous nightmare person that's ultra capable. And it's just they just move the pieces around and make people be other characters.
She's just too high level for everybody else.
She
literally she leveled up.
There's an entire story arc where she got rejected from the entire encampment, from the prison that everybody was in. That was their base in like season 3 or whatever. She got rejected and kicked out for being too ruthless. Like there was a bunch of people that were sick from like a plague situation, and she executed all of them under cover of night because that was going to be the thing that would bring the downfall of the entire settlement. And she saw it that way. And she was the only one willing to do what needed to be done to make sure that didn't just take everybody out one day. So she literally just gets excommunicated from the community. But then when the prison falls and everybody is trying to reunite, which is my favorite season of the entire show, was when everyone's in individual groups of like 2 or 3, and they're in the forest, and it's like a bunch of little standalone episode storylines. Then it's just really nice survival stories and like character growth and so on. Easily the best season of the whole show. But there's a series of railroads all around the environment that are all going to one like crossing, and there's a group there that's like inviting people to come there because it's like, and like they're inviting people to come there and join them, like it's peaceful and everything. But rather noticeably, you look at the map and like, all those railroads going to one place sure looks like a spider's web. But when they arrive, they're all captured, and they're cannibals, and they're going to eat them. And fucking Carol single-handedly saves all of them while causing nightmare mayhem to the entire settlement. She is actually genuinely overpowered. She's actually a nightmare person. She's just this person capable. She's like the protagonist of Drive.
Machina. Oh, the what's his name?
Or like he seems
Johnny something.
I don't remember his name, but the Ryan Gosling character, where like he seems like
detached, and
he seems kind of like chill and almost friendly, and like he's like this guy probably wouldn't hurt a fly. And then like you see him just being capable of untold levels of violence, and then he doesn't even like regret it afterwards. Like that's the struggle of being that kind of person, is like Carol's character. And that's just a new character that didn't exist in that part of that character didn't exist in any part of the original Walking Dead, I don't think.
The ending of the manga reminds me of the ending of, I don't know if you guys watched 6 Feet Under. It's a sort of an old series, but it's
the ending of the Walking Dead comic.
Yeah, because it with the flash forward specifically, except it doesn't feel like the comic was done properly, because it feels like it's just the ending of another season. Like you could have done that all along. You don't need to wait until this particular season to like. There's nothing special from what
they could
you're
have done
saying.
it all along, but the final story arc was kind of like setting the thing in place for the idea that this is the future and this could be the actual society that lasts. Because usually they're in constant turmoil. Although Alexandria, the place they spent like half the entire storyline in, could have been the final. I guess it kind of is. It does survive, I think. Mm-hmm. But in the early arcs in particular, they're going from place to place, and that place always collapses in one way or another for a different reason.
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad for the show writers who are it's
Just have to
definitely not
figure
like
out what to do with it.
yeah, like it's not their fault, you know. Like they didn't force these people to leave the project, and they, you know, and they're probably doing their best to try to like, all right, we're just trying to like work this comic into some kind of television. Like I get it. At some point, the decisions they make are kind of also questionable, but like. Could you imagine, like, you show up to the writer's room, you're like, all right, guys, you ready to write for season 3? And they're like, all right, so, like, everyone's leaving? It's like, what? Like, yeah, like, they're all bailing. So all the main characters need to be written off. It's like, what the fuck? No, there's, like, a whole... We just got done reading all the comics. There's, like, a whole, like, 7 arcs with them in it. What do you mean they're leaving? What are we going to do about it? Like, what are we going to do about these people? I don't know. That's...
Yeah.
It's a weird situation where you'll see so many of the same deaths happen, but it's like a fucking like roulette wheel. Who's gonna get it? Like, oh yeah,
So
there it
they're
is.
basically
That's
using the
the
ideas.
It's like there's the Shane death and there's that guy's death, but it's like a different character each time. And you're like, what? Like, okay, there's the death where the character gets shot in the back of the head out of the arrow with an arrow, and it comes out their eye socket, and they're still trying to like say the word they were saying when it happened, but they're not quite functioning anymore, and then they never quite finish that sentence. But it's like a different character completely. Or like, oh, there's the one where the guy is getting eaten by cannibals, and then while he's being eaten, like while they're cooking up his leg and eating that and everything, he reveals midway through that he's got a bite from a Walker already. He's like, "That's right, boys, I'm spoiled meat." But it's a completely different character than the one that did it in the comic. They just keep doing
Why
it over
didn't
and
he
over again.
reveal that before his leg got eaten?
Because he's at that point he
He would
wants
have died
he wants them to die.
He would have died anyway as
Well,
well.
he's already bit, so he's gonna die. So at that point,
That's
he's just like, take all these fuckers with me.
Oh yeah, you
That's
bite
a
down on
pretty fucking memorable reveal from the comic. So they do it again, but the character that did it is dead already. So they're like, this guy. Because that was another character that died way too early in the show because he wanted off, because he just randomly gets eviscerated in season 2 by a nothing thing. It's a weird, it's a really fucking weird experience reading this one story while watching the show, try to catch up with it, and then you're like, how the fuck are they going to do that part? And like, well, they tried something. Like one of the big questions, like in a Red Wedding sort of way, like some of the big questions are like, okay, there's going to be the Negan execution scene. That's just what he's known for. You can't introduce Negan without him beating somebody to death with a baseball bat. The question is he going to kill the same character? And they did their own twist on that idea. But then with the Whisperers, there's the part where like there's this monologue about like what the weakness of this society is. It's like it used to be that everybody knew each other because it was small groups of people that survived together and everyone knew who everybody was. But now that because they're kind of prospering, their society is so big that people just kind of don't know each other and there just are strangers. There's even multiple entire trading settlements that interact with each other by proxy and have never been to each other. Most people in each location have never been to the other locations and don't know the people there. So if you're throwing like a fair, which they're doing in this story arc, it's like a harvest festival basically. Like there's a bunch of new faces around, so Alpha can just infiltrate in, kill a bunch of people, and then put their heads on spikes. And in both cases, it's not until a character comes across, like there's just like you hear mumblings like, oh, where's that person been? And they go, oh yeah, is that person? Have you seen Darlene today or whatever the fuck? But it's specifically a particular character encounters the border crossing and sees the heads on spikes, and then you just see them one by one. It's like in the comic, it's like panel by panel, and then the panels keep getting bigger. So it's like, here's a 4-part panel of some minor characters that are dead, and then here's like these bigger panels, like only two on a whole page. Then here's the full page spread of like the biggest reveal of dead character. And then of course in the show, it's like they scroll from side to side across the heads and give the big close up to a particular character and stuff like that. But all of the people were different. Like it's like none of the same heads. And in both cases, It's shocking because there's always like a handful of characters you barely know, but you're like, oh yeah, if I go back, I can recognize them in some comics. Then there's always like one really, really main character and like 2 people. They're like, damn, like they're a side character, but when I look back, I'm like, I realize like not only did I like them, they've been around for like 10 years of the comic. even if they weren't a main character, and now they're dead on a spike. But yeah, it's just a fucking wild card. Like it's like Mad Libs of the comic, where you're like, I don't know who's it gonna be. It's that character. Fuck, shit, that person didn't even exist in the comic. It's a fucking weird ride.
You think there's a lot of people following both the comic and the show? I mean, I suppose people who are reading the comic.
I'm sure the comic got some
probably
boost from the show.
Yeah,
And I'm sure the people that read the comic watch the show. So yeah, it kind of works both ways. Do popular things make each other more popular?
Yeah.
I realized we really didn't answer the question that I posed. Whoops.
Oh, what was it?
2 hours. Oh
I'm
no!
sorry.
What?
Was that my fault? Did I derail it?
No,
Apologize.
it was all.
We got a lot of
all of us.
sidetracks just in general. But it
I
was the
remember
idea.
talking about Doom.
The question about
Is it even worth going? Should it just be next episode's topic? We didn't even actually address it to begin with. I don't think. I think I introduced it. Then immediately
I'm sorry.
we started just talking about visual novels and then anime.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe
We
we'll
can
come
talk
back
about
next
it,
week
but-
to discuss why we're critical of games and so on as an idea, because we didn't really.
yeah.
We didn't really start the topic, so it's not really worth finishing.
Somehow we started the topic as geography, and we managed to get One Piece into geography. So I guess
Yeah.
that's been the theme today. Has just been geography.
This
we
was
even talked
geography.
about
This is all the worst things you can do in a podcast is talk about visual stuff, then talk about spoilers, and then talk about geography.
the worst
This
podcast.
is a useless podcast.
Well, next time on the podcast, we'll talk about even worse things. So prepare yourselves.
Yeah,
What does
next
that
week
mean?
we'll
Who knows?
spoil WandaVision by getting the leaks of what happens next week and then just reading it out unprompted ahead of. I haven't watched
just
any
reenact
WandaVision.
it.
I don't
That would
have.
be
I've,
worse.
I've
That
never
would-
had a Disney Plus Pro account, so I've never watched any of the shows.
At
Mandalorian
this point-
seems to have just fucking driven off a cliff into it being a trash show, so I kind of don't regret starting it now, or don't regret not starting
Yeah,
it. now.
Really?
It sounds like all
Did
of
it
season
really
2 is
become
a
a-
series of shitty fan service episodes that are all about the
Aw.
deep lore, and it's like just exhausting.
This is why.
That's the thing I got nervous about. When I was watching one, the biggest thing I said was all right, well, the ending, the last few episodes are starting to become a little pandery. Can we avoid?
It sounds
that
like
next
season 2 was just whoops, all pandering,
And I was like, okay,
and like
yeah, 'cause
pandering.
I watched,
Like the plot got snapped over the knee of pandering.
yeah,
and there was
I watched
even
the first episode, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I don't think I can do this anymore.
This is why I don't watch things that are not finished anymore. I mean, Game of Thrones broke me for sure, but I keep wanting to buy specifically Netflix because there's shows that I want to see, but then they keep upping the price. The most of the shows that they have going on, they end up going south or getting canceled halfway through for no reason, and it's just no, I'm done. I like video games. That's where I'm at.
some shows get canceled
And,
multiple times, then change networks and so on. Like fucking Expanse and Tuca and Birdie are just both back now. They're they're uncanceled. Someone else got them. Adult, because I think Amazon
And monthly payments, they add up. Monthly payments, it's
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of money.
But I
It's,
think- I think-
I don't have that kind of money.
I think Amazon took the Expanse after Sci-Fi canceled it, which is not the direction you expect that to go in normally, because Sci-Fi's the lower rent station, you'd think. And then I think Tuca and Birdie, which was great, got canceled by Netflix after one season and is now being made by Adult Swim after being sitting in limbo for a few years. But no, I had another show that ended. I don't think I'm happy with it, but I'm not that unhappy. Well, I have one. Oh god, now
Keith, use
I
your
just
words.
remembered our bad ending topics from earlier, and then I remembered, oh god, the 100 ended, and it was like horrifically
100?
bad. The final season was so bad and got worse every episode until it just collapsed under the weight of all of its bizarre choices they made that season, including just ruining multiple characters and just savaging the story and then having a horrible ending, which was frustrating because the 100 was just a very enjoyable show all the way throughout, despite being, of all things, a CW show. I was chilling with it. I had fun with the weirdness of it. I was like, hey, this is like Walking Dead but better. I tried to and I was able to sell multiple people that like Walking Dead on it because it's not a zombie show, but it has the exact same like tribalism aesthetic of like these group, not like tribes, but I mean like the like people versus people thing, because like it's really just about people in a hard to survive situation going at each other and making difficult choices and so on and being all gritty and shit. And like ultimately the 100 actually was a more interesting version than Walking Dead, because the Walking Dead just didn't actually have that much to say about a lot of that stuff, especially the show. But the final season was just garbage. And it was also a show that felt like it ended like 4 times.
Wait, they introduced the concept of transcendence in the last season?
Yes!
And made the whole season about that.
So much stuff happened over the course that it got so fucking weird. Also, the Mr. Robot is the one I'm less. That's the one where I was leading into at first, where I'm just like, I think I'm kind of.
I noticed that 4 episodes in.
I was like,
nope, not watching this.
No, I love Mr. Robot.
I
love
like
Mr. Robot. I thought the whole show was fucking great, all the way up until the final season made some iffy, strange choices here and there of like, really, we're getting rid of that character that abruptly and that way. That's a little like some of the resolutions of specific storylines were just weird, and some of them were abrupt in good ways, and some of them were abrupt in I don't know. The forest episode, for those that have seen the show, where the show starts going like, okay, I don't know if I like some of the choices they're making. But then specifically, they go into like hyper surreal weirdness for the last few episodes, and it gets really cerebral and strange. And by the end, I'm like, I don't know if the choices that were made worked. And that's the note it ends on to some extent. But it's still overall a good final season. But it's one of those things where like the final ending was kind of like, I don't know how I'm supposed to think about this, or how I don't know if I'm happy with that.
As long as like for me, when a show ends with weird choices, I don't get offended at that too much. Like if it ends badly, in terms of themes or in terms of where the story went, it is what it is. Like I know that, like for example, the ending of The Sopranos, a lot of people get upset at that style of ending. It's famous. I say The Sopranos because it's famous of being one of those endings.
It just cuts off.
It cuts off. Yeah, there's a lot of shows that end like that. Oh, well, I say a lot, but there's a multitude of them, and that doesn't. It's not that I don't want to know what happens next or whatever, but it's a choice. It's an artistic choice. It's like it works or it doesn't. It is what it is. But for me, what really turns me off from any show, and it doesn't need to be the ending, but it happens a lot in the endings, especially in between seasons, is that I get the distinct impression that the show is not made for somebody like me. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, one of the last few shows that I gave a shot at was it's not The Flash. It's one of the it's Gotham, I think. Is it Gotham? No.
Flash,
the Arrow,
Gotham,
yeah, Arrow. I think it's just called Arrow. Yeah, it's just called Arrow.
Yeah, Arrow. I got really sick of. I
watched
started
the first
watching
season.
it entirely because Flash was kind of fun, and they kept having crossover shit. So I was like, I kind of want to know what the fuck's going on in these. But Arrow is so much worse than the Flash, and now it has crossovers with like Legends of Tomorrow and Supergirl. So now it's like, okay, I give up. I'm not watching all these other shows to keep up.
I watched the first season, and I watched until the end. I was a little bit apprehensive about the fact that they were basically making half of the episodes about flashbacks, and I'm like, if you're gonna make it flashbacks, just make a different story. Don't tell.
Oh yeah, the
tell
storytelling of Arrow is infuriating.
But I could like, that's the style of choice that I'm like, okay, it's
and
a choice.
It was somehow
whatever.
a popular enough show to spawn this entire like cinematic universe of CW shows,
right?
Which I'm grateful for the Flash and only the Flash.
Isn't that wild? I don't like, because the ending of the first season is so cheesy and bad that it transcends like any style of. It's like they sent it in like, let's just do whatever. It doesn't matter. It has the worst delivery because the actor isn't very good, but it just made him. Oh my god! It is like it's like watching a kid's show. Like, it's so bad, and I'm like, okay, this show is not made for me, for sure. And I don't think it is, honestly. No offense to whoever it is made
knows
for,
to be
but
fun. Arrow's trying to be Batman, and it's bad at it.
Oh, that's an interesting look. I didn't think about it.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely. They wanted to have a Batman show, but they couldn't get a Batman show, so they used Arrow to be Batman. And it's just all gritty because Flash and all that, like. Let's see. Wait, no, that is DC. But yeah, they just didn't have Batman because nobody has the rights to Batman. Even Gotham didn't have the rights to Batman. They had to. They just had they were allowed to do the setting, but they couldn't actually have a Batman show. So it's all about all the things in Batman, but they couldn't use. There was 2 rules, as far as I can remember. I think Gotham was not allowed to use Batman, and they weren't allowed to use the Joker. So they could use every other Batman villain and Jim Gordon, and they did some really fun stuff and some really stupid stuff with that show.
Honestly, the only reason I stopped watching Gotham is because they were leaning more and more into the heroes that everybody knows. I wish they just, it's about a cop show in Gotham, and the heroes kind of in the background, and it's kind of cool. I wish they stuck with that, but they didn't.
Later seasons trying to set up Catwoman and Batman is just increasingly irritating.
I stopped watching halfway through the second
season. Kind of fun how odd they made the choice of making Riddler and Penguin a couple. Kind of, they couldn't. There's like a will they won't they of the whole show, and it was like, oh, these are like the 2 best characters in the entire show, and they can't decide if they love or want to murder each other. The Penguin is easily the best part of the entire show because Gordon's boring, and he sounds like his own dialogue is dubbed over himself. Like he makes weird faces when he talks, and talks in a weird gruff voice that makes it sound like he dubbed his own lines afterwards over his own video throughout the whole show.
Remember that detail?
No, the best characters are his partner and the Penguin, who is a great actor for that kind of shit.
Oh,
he's so fun.
He's really good.
And you just want more of him, and the rest of the show keeps getting in the way.
Where did I see him first? He's like, did he show up in a big movie?
I first knew him as one of the interns in The Scrubs. He's this little dorky, awkward kid, and he's like the Penguin in here, and he's great.
I don't remember where.
He gets around a bit.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
He makes the character really sympathetic, even though he's a horrible mass murderer with no redeeming qualities.
Well, yeah, that's the fun of his acting. It's just, it's a weird line between appreciating just somebody just being weird, and also the writing.
I've got such a fucking bone to pick about cinematic universes on television, though, right now. Because,
oh my god,
I've already got Andrew already knows, because I did a rant about this in the Sit and Discuss podcast about fucking Fear the Walking Dead, and how they killed the show in its prime and put a bunch of characters from Walking Dead on it and made them the main characters now, and just interrupted all of the story arcs and characters and killed most of the main cast to just make it a show about, just suddenly in season 4 or whatever, it just becomes a show about these Walking Dead characters instead of the people that were actually in the Fear the Walking Dead. It's astonishing. That pissed me off. But fucking CW, my god, it was already it was cute when once a season, because they have 25 episode seasons, and once a season there'd be a throwaway Arrowverse crossover where it's the Flash and the Arrow are going to have a joint adventure, and you watch the first half of it on the Arrow and the second half of it on the Flash, and then that's the little crossover event each year. It's okay, that's fine, whatever. But then they made Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow, and that's, oh my goodness, one of the worst culminations was the fact that fucking Barry and Iris get married. They're the fucking main coupling in the Flash. That's the big thing is are Barry and Iris gonna ever be a thing? Are they gonna get married? What's gonna happen? They get married on somebody else's show. They don't get married on the Flash. So if you're watching the Flash as a series of episodes on Netflix, they're suddenly married all of a sudden, and you don't know when it happened, and you have to find where it was because you're confused. What a baffling fucking choice. But also increasingly frustrating is that fucking Legends of Tomorrow was this idea it's going to be a time traveling storyline, and really on the nose they got Rory from Doctor Who to play the time trap, to be essentially the Doctor Who of that setting. He's the guy that runs the time machine that everyone's using to go throughout all time and space to solve problems or whatever the fuck. And Legends of Tomorrow is mostly a series of villains from the Rogues Gallery of DC, all mashed together into one superhero group in the Suicide Squad sort of way. And they're kind of held hostage and forced to kind of do these weird, just sort of encounter being stuck in the wrong parts of time and dealing with stuff like that. But they took half of the most interesting characters and just put them on that, so they're just not in the original shows anymore. So you're just watching fucking The Flash, and you're like, oh man, when's that guy from Prison Break going to be back again? Captain Cold? He's great. He's like the best villain of the entire show. Like I miss that guy. He usually shows up like he gets like an arc every season, right? Like when's Captain Cold coming back this season? Then like season like 3 or 4 of The Flash or whatever, one day you're just like, oh yeah, it's really sad. He's dead. And you're like, what? Wait, what? It's like, oh yeah, he died in like season 3 of Legends of Tomorrow or whatever he's from the Flash. He's in the Flash. We took him from me, and then he killed him off camera in some other fucking show.
Jesus.
Give back Prison Break guy. He's the best character.
I just looked it up, and apparently Supergirl girl got canceled this year.
Did Supergirl get canceled? I hated the fucking pilot. I just watched. I hated. I watched like 2 seasons of Arrow. And I watched like 5 episodes, I think, of Legends of Tomorrow. I made it through 1 episode of Supergirl. I couldn't take it.
Well, but the thing is, like, when you make it a cinematic universe, if you like it, even if you like it a little bit, there's an incentive to consume the rest, and that's the reason why they make it super. Like
which is a nightmare because they're 25 episode seasons, so that's 100 episodes a year.
Yeah, you need to dedicate yourself. But that's like the reason they do that is actually very well. It's not going to surprise anybody, but it's related to money. But the point is, it's because of the ceiling of the investment is a lot higher than just telling investors, hey, I have this show that can get up to this amount of revenue and up to this amount of investment. If you tell them we're going to create a cinematic universe, you can sell a lot more. Not necessarily, you don't necessarily get more money because it still needs to grow. But if you say this is going to get you a cinematic universe, they can be okay. So maybe in 2 years we're going to be spending 10 times this and getting 100 times what we're getting right now. And that's why it's better for investors to propose cinematic universes. But then the ones who draw the short straw are the people watching because the shows that don't make it and you get invested in, they get cut, and people get married off in other weird series that you don't want to watch or whatever. I mean,
it's so fucking frustrating.
You just mentioned Prison Break. Prison Break was phenomenally successful. It had 4 seasons. One of them was sort of weird. It had 4 seasons. It was super successful and influential as well.
Breaking Bad had 5 seasons, and one of them was only 6 episodes long.
Yeah, it's just like, just get. I don't know.
The Arrow ended after 6 seasons. Looks like Flash is 6 seasons deep. I googled Supergirl canceled, and it was just taken aback that the title of the article was Supergirl canceled. Why the CW show is ending after 6 seasons? I'm like, oh god, time has passed. When I was not looking. Apparently, it went on for a while. So it's canceled, but it's like they're going into a final season, knowing it's the final season, so they can end it, kind of canceling. It says fans of the show are expected to get another 20 episodes before it comes to an end, and then it's going to join Arrow as one of the only as the Arrowverse shows that are over. Mm-hmm. Oh God. Flash was later followed in 2015 by Vixen and Supergirl, in 2016 by Legends of Tomorrow, 2017 by Freedom Fighters The Ray, and 2019 by Batwoman. How many Arrowverse shows are there? This is bigger than the fucking Netflix cinematic universe of Marvel that got canceled also. Oh god, that hurt.
It's the same cancer, man. It's the same. It's just the making shows for the investors and not for the people watching them.
That was infuriating. That they set up this whole fucking cinematic universe on Netflix, and Jessica Jones was good, and about half of Daredevil was good, and Luke Cage was half of one season of Luke Cage was good, and all of Iron Fist was bad. And then they had the Defenders, which was the crossover of those 4 shows at the same time, and that was pretty bad. But all I really wanted was more Jessica Jones. But then there was the year where. As when Disney Plus was being announced or whatever, so Netflix just quietly was they were canceling every Marvel show, but they were only saying they were canceled after a few months after each final season aired. So even though we knew it was going to happen, they were playing coy with the idea, now it's canceled. After the season had done its arc and potentially gotten watched and made them money and all that. Jessica Jones was fucking great, and I'm mad. But yeah, they just get collectively axed. It's fucking infuriating for you to introduce this whole thing that you're totally going to be invested in. You're totally going to totally gonna see through having this universe of all these different shows happening in parallel, and then half of them only got one season. And then you just cancel all of it. Like, wow, just fuck your audience, huh? That was like the beginning of Netflix really overtly just canceling stuff all the time. When at the beginning it sounded like anything could just get away with being on their channel, and they would just like keep it going. Back in the House of Cards and whatever the werewolf show was, I never watched. And like it seemed like everything would just go like Orange is the New Black. And now the climate of Netflix seems to be that no show like House of Cards or Orange is the New Black would ever exist again, because they're not looking to even make shows that last more than like 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah, 2 or 3. Yeah, absolutely. That is the impression I get.
They
as
killed
well.
the
That's
OA.
why I don't want to subscribe.
It had a psychic octopus.
Do you think it's gonna have a like long term? Well, I say long term, but like, what do you think is gonna happen to Netflix in 5 years because of these choices that they're doing right now?
I mean, I'm not invested in anything on that platform anymore.
Yeah,
I only use Netflix to watch. Well, no, I like The End of the Fucking World, which is probably over. Which every season could end, and The End of the Fucking World could just not continue after every season, and that would be a good ending. It's a show that they write that way, which is good. Mm-hmm. And there probably is a couple other ones I could find eventually if I tried hard enough. But by and large, I just use Netflix to watch other networks' shows that are on Netflix, because it's a good like aggregator for watching shows that are about a year old. It's like around the time the next season's coming out, and they put out the DVDs and so on of the previous seasons, also when the Netflix part of it comes out, if it's coming to Netflix. It's like that's how I watch the 100 mostly. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't think it really hurts their originals if I can't get invested in them because they're gonna get canceled. It makes me only watch their movies.
Yeah,
I can't think of a single cinematic universe that I'm like invested into. It's all just like not even. I don't think there's even an anime cinematic universe. Oh, I guess it's not true. I guess I am invested.
An anime
in, like,
universe.
Yeah, Kodansha owns all of the isekai anime basically. So like Konosuba, ReZero.
Are isekai a universe though?
So
or
each
is it just a genre?
Each isekai is its own universe. But there is a gag manga called Isekai Quartet, which isekais all the isekai people into
like Warriors Orochi.
Yeah, it does. It isekais all the isekai characters into an isekai high school. So they're all interacting in one single high school, and the premise of this isekai world is that they just have to go to school. That's it. They're not supposed to attack each other or hurt each other or do any. They're supposed to go to school, and so like the entire thing is just a bunch of these, like a handful of characters and their dynamics with each other. And it's really funny, but I think that's like the only quote unquote cinematic universe I'm even like remotely a part of. And that's mostly by proxy because like I watch all the other individual shows, but they don't interlink except for this one particular show.
Weird.
Yeah, but that's like
I guess it's just a cinematic universe the moment you have just two different series that exist together. Like that's just what it takes, I guess.
I mean, if they interact, I would say if you have two different stories and they interact with one another, that is a universe.
Yeah. Which in many cases is literally just when they make a show and then they make a spin-off of that show. Then that's a universe.
Yeah, but
yeah.
But that's the thing is like
Joey.
Anime does that a lot. Like technically Boruto isn't a sequel to Naruto. It is an alternate. It's like a spin-off series.
It's not a sequel?
No, because it takes place decades after the original. So like the idea is that like, okay, well Naruto did it. He beat the fuck out of Sasuke and now they're friends again.
I feel like it's only a universe if they're parallel though. If it's just the same universe but later, then it's just basically like the next sequel, even if it is new characters.
Yeah, I guess I don't know it's weird.
Like the Flash and Arrow take place at the same time in different cities, and then they cross over.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like what are.
It's not as common as you'd think. Actually, I mean, I guess it's exactly as common as you think, which is that's not common. Because like, how do you? A show has to be so popular that they can make a parallel show that happens at the same time.
Oh fuck! I guess I am technically investing to the Index world.
There's currently 3 Walking Dead shows.
So here's a fun one: is there is a series called The Certain Magical Index, and it is just a banana show. So there's. Oh, can I see the timeline? This thing is a nightmare.
I think the
Banana Show.
I think the current Archie show might be in the same universe as Sabrina, but I'm not watching either of them.
Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3.
Oh, Grey's Anatomy also has a universe.
So there are 3 different anime series about the same universe, but that's only anime. There's also 7 book series.
The Frasier cinematic universe. Cheers.
Okay, so there's 1, 2. Oh, that's the anime.
Let's all argue in the comments about what a cinematic universe is.
And whether we're too critical of them or not.
4, 5, 6, 7.
I draw a hard line at game theory bullshit.
So there's 8
Well, like
visual novels.
that Easter egg exists in that world, and that references that world. Therefore, they're all in the same universe. I hate those.
Yeah, references don't equal.
It has to be real.
universal
It has to be
connection.
real plot.
Yeah,
And also, and not just references, plot holes don't try to like paint over a plot hole as if saying that it's actually it's been this universe all along.
yeah. No, this Index universe is pretty big, and that's technically multiple series. So I guess I can say that I'm part of that cinematic universe. That's like the furthest I could get, but I can't think of anything else. I'm like, I don't do Fate Stay, and I know that's its own, and I know.
Oh, there's so many different names in that
Oh, there's also
scheme.
There's also the Montanagiri
the
Monogatari.
Capture
Sorry.
Sakura people are also they also basically do everything in the same universe, and it's weird. I don't remember their name though. They're like a group of authors.
But yeah, there's some that are like that, but it's Oh yeah, I forgot the Monogatari series is also fucking.
Oh,
built
that
like
one
an
as well, yeah.
asshole. So that one it's literally built with spite in mind because you have to watch it. You have to watch each individual episode out of order. So like season 1, you have to like watch. You have to watch like
the first
some
season,
episodes
I
of
was
season
good.
1, and then you have to watch a couple episodes of season 2, then season 3, then you have to go back to season 1, then you have to go to season 3, then to season 2, then to season 1, then you have to go to season 4, then you have to go back to season 1. It's like, who the fuck did it? Who did this? Bring me
I think
their
they didn't
office
expect-
right now.
I think they didn't expect to be able to make as many anime from that particular universe.
No, it's because this seemingly
they had, like,
intelligent
a lot of
jackass
problems.
decided to make each season about a specific girl. But the problem
Yeah.
is that the canonical storyline happens with all of these girls interacting in one universe. And so instead
Mm-hmm.
of just like telling the story, they decided to tell the specific girl story for each season. So if you want to like understand
Each one's like a visual novel track.
yeah, basically.
Yeah,
Except the
yeah.
problem is that you're missing the in-betweens in that track. So, like, you talk to a girl, and then the next episode, she's making a reference to something you have no fucking idea about. You're like, what are you talking about? That didn't happen. It's like, that's because you didn't watch season 3 episode 5. And you're like, what? That's not even out yet. This is season
That's
1. What are you
interesting.
talking about? And it's like,
I watched-
oh, yeah, sorry. Just,
Oh yeah,
I
Star
remember
Trek
watching the
cinematic
first-
universe.
Oh yeah, that's true. I watched the first season of Bakemonogatari as it came out. I was watching dubs. No, wait, which dub? No, subs. I always watch subs, but it was like fan made subs, so it hadn't even come out in the West or anything. And I remember there being like a huge kerfuffle with is it Bones? Who is it? Bones who makes that, or
I don't remember who makes the
Slaughterhouse?
mono.
either way,
It's
I
probably
remember.
Bones.
They had a lot of budget issues because there's some of the later episodes have some really shabby animation, And there was a lot of issues with people not even knowing when the episodes were coming out, and people were like, "It should be out this week." Nope, it's not out. So they were missing deadlines and stuff.
It's by Shaft.
Shaft. There we go. So I think it must have been like a tumultuous part for the history of the studio or something. But I can imagine them not being confident that it would get Nisei Monogatari and Neko Monogatari after that. Because it's a weird, like, it's not just out of order as you're saying, and let me tell you, I didn't get that impression from just watching the first season, because it's just a story. You know, obviously there's a backstory, but like, you know, you don't know that there's more coming. But it's not just that it's out of order. It's also, the first season is 12 episodes and 3 OVAs. The second season is 11 episodes. And the fourth season is like 4 OVAs, or how?
No, so it's even more convoluted than that. So the first season follows 3 girls, which is Bake Monogatari, Nisei Monogatari, and Neko Monogatari Black. And it's 30 episodes long. 15 dedicated to the first girl, 11 to the second.
That's not a season though. Those are multiple seasons.
No, that's the first season.
Yeah, but it's like the first one came out in 2012 and then, or 2013.
Yeah, it came out in 2009.
Or 9, yeah.
Came out 2009 to 2012. Season 2 was...
How is this season spread over multiple years? You know what I mean?
This show was made by a fucking buffoon. Like, that's what
I'm saying. Like,
season 2 is 28 episodes, and it follows 6 girls, which is Neko Monogatari, White, Kabuki Monogatari, Otori Monogatari, Oni Monogatari, Kimono Monogatari, Hana Monogatari. And like each of them have like 5 episodes. And then there's a final season, which is at season 3 technically. And that has 42 episodes. And that follows 5 different
and you all need to watch them out of order.
Yes, they're not all in synchronous order either. It's like, dude, I'm going to murder you.
I only watched the first 15 episodes. I'm good.
Yeah, I made the mistake.
Good.
I went
liked
to
it.
I watched Baka, and I was like, okay, well, this is all right, I guess. And I talked to somebody on a Discord that I'm part of for.
You should say Bakemono,
anime.
by the way. Not Baka, but it's different, completely different words. You know what I'm saying.
Guys, there's a new Tremors movie.
But I talked to somebody on a Discord about it, and they like gave me this like hour-long Discord conversation about it. I was like,
oh,
okay,
no.
I'm sorry for asking. And he linked me a sheet, and it was like an Excel spreadsheet.
You
going
accidentally
over, like,
found the super fan.
There's not even a wiki page or something.
No, like literally just had an Excel spreadsheet on Google Docs. He's like, this is the one that people use to watch the thing. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? I was like, I just want to watch
drugs.
Yeah, I was like, I just want to watch
something.
anime, but you're asking me to do actual work right now. Fuck me.
Science fiction. It's like Spycraft.
And like I tried watching it, and I was like, I don't enjoy this at all. Actually, like the series isn't that good. It's not good enough to withstand this like weird decision making.
I really liked the novelty of long drawn verbose, really convoluted dialogues that last for the whole episode, and it's like
like the direction and the animation is
the
really good at
BoJack
times.
Wake.
But like,
Have you seen the Wake and BoJack?
No,
I don't think
that's what it's called, right? When you have like it's not the funeral is when you bury them, but the wake is when there's like it's like in a church and there's like a coffin. Yeah, there's a scene, there's an episode of BoJack that's just him monologuing in front of a coffin for the entire episode, and it's fucking good.
Bakemonogatari is mostly that, but for the whole season, and they're walking a lot as well. And then a little bit of fan service.
What they're saying isn't interesting. That's the problem.
No, it's the way they're saying it, and that's why I thought it was good.
It never,
the novelty just runs out immediately, though. As soon as you're done with the first season, you're like, okay, I'm good, thank you.
It felt like they were talking about stuff that like I felt like
it's mundane stuff.
Yeah, it's like it felt like stuff I didn't really care about.
Yeah, and it's like the backpack or the.
But it never culminated into something that like actually intrigued me or actually was like, oh. It was always just like, okay, well that looks cool, I guess, but like, why are we? What is this? What's going on? Are we gonna? What are you? Are you a romance, an action,
It's an
drama?
harem
Like,
through and through.
yeah, but like it's a weird harem. It's not even like the conventional like, okay, everybody wants to
that's true,
fuck
that's
this guy. It's always like you're going down to. It's like a weird. It's the best way to describe it is it's almost like a real life visual novel where it's readily apparent that this world is built like a visual novel. Except no one knows they're in a visual novel,
Yeah,
except for the
absolutely.
people telling the story, which is like, what? What is happening?
But I think that's what compelled me to the show is that it's a novel way of telling a story.
I mean, Data
But
Live
it
did the
doesn't-
same thing, but at least it had like action. I don't know, like
Later on, you get some action scenes. I think even the season ending of the first season, you fight the vampire girl. I think there's some way weird.
It's so weird, and that's a
It is-
whole
it
different
is.
person's scene. That's like a whole different girl's timeline too. It's not even like the other girl's line. It's a different girl you're interacting with. Like
Yeah, they all was
what?
they
What the
were weird.
fuck? What is?
I noticed
this?
that because the last two not the last two episodes, but the last two episodes that aired on TV, so episode 11 and 12, those have like a different tone altogether, and they feel like there's a jump in time because there is. But they, like it's an exercise in telling a story. It's like you're watching a very they have this enormous amount of experience. The people who worked on that series, they're a household name through and through. But it's like you're watching them be like, okay, let me try to be as artsy fartsy as I can while still talking about the most normal banal things ever, because that's what the story is about. Apart from the supernatural aspects of it a little, but. And then it's just at the end, I thought it was really pretty because it's the most basic love story about a couple of kids going to watch the stars, and then there's the father next to them, which is weird, but I thought it was well done, well told. But that
Like,
was the only reason why I liked it.
For context,
Oh my
here's the timeline. This is how you're supposed to like.
You posted an image, this image.
Yeah, this is the
Catastrophic.
timeline for this show, and just
Oh no.
like. By the way, there's stuff that hasn't aired yet for this
Of
franchise.
course.
Like, there's
The
still
first
parts of the
season-
story you don't know because like.
Oh my god, of course.
It's a nightmare. It should not
And there's
be
question marks for the
allowed.
ends.
And there's like
Okay.
there's movies and shit too. You have to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Like
The reason why I don't watch much anime anymore is because you really need to pay attention because of the subs. You can't just like look at it. You need to pause it every once in a while so you can read things. But
that's a skill
I
you need
think-
to develop. I have no
I-
issues reading and watching.
I am a very graphical person. I like watching, but so I pause. I take like 50% more time than the episode is long. But,
Oh God.
no kidding.
I'll
no
just watch
kidding.
the dub. Fuck it.
No, I like the Japanese.
Spoken like a
It adds.
I don't
fucking
give a fuck.
heretic.
Spoken
How
like somebody who
it
wants
adds
to
to the
watch the anime.
experience. It adds to the experience, the Japanese. But the I don't think I've been missing much.
You are.
Because this is one of the series that I kind of was thinking of going back, but no, I'm good. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like I don't know. There are good anime that don't have to. Oh, you know what? I guess another cinematic universe I'm a part of is Cells at Work, because I forgot they just came out with Black, which technically it takes place in the same timeline, but just not a different body, or just a different body, but it's still the same universe because it's in a human body. Cells at Work, by the way, is just Osmosis Jones, but more interesting and more educational. The idea is you're just following around parts of the human body, and it teaches you the whole way through. Like, this is what a white blood cell does. This is what a hemoglobin is, and this is what fucking H. pylori looks like. It's interesting. They actually did have an episode for season 2 that just came out, and they did one specifically for vaccines to quell all of the vaccine paranoia people. It was like, okay, guys, we're gonna go over really in depth what this fucking does, and it like it's really great actually. The idea is like your body freaks out because it's like, holy shit, someone just like threw a bunch of fucking viruses right into the center of your goddamn body. What the hell happened? But all the viruses are just like shitty. Like
They're half viruses.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're like they come out and there are a bunch of these like fucked up cells that are basically like missing limbs and struggling to walk around, and then like the white blood cells just beat the shit out of them, and it's like a massacre. They're like, huh.
That's the
weird.
sort of stories that
I don't know where those came from, but I guess next time they come, we're just gonna kick their fucking ass again. It's like,
I remember watching some anime as well when I was a kid that was about that. It was the
season one. The season one villain was like because so they have like an actual overarching villain for each season, and season one's overarching villain was cancer, and that was really good actually.
That is a damn villain.
Yeah, like it was showing. I liked it because it was showing just how chaotically destructive cancer is. It just like shows up and it's like, what's wrong? I'm doing the right thing. I'm making more of myself. That's what I'm supposed to do. It's like, no, you're doing it wrong though. Like you're going out of control, but there's too many of you. It's like, that's not possible. There can only be more of me. That's my job. It's like, no, you don't get it. Like you need to stop procreating. It's like all the cells are really displayed interesting where they're like in their apartments and they have little test tubes because they're creating a clone of themselves. And so like their lives are just eating nutrients and creating like maintaining a clone of themselves. And cancer is like basically having 16 of those like barrels and they're creating too many clones of themselves. It's like, whoa, what's going on here, bud? Everyone gets one apartment. What's happening? It's like, no, I need to create more. So I killed all the other cells to take their cloning tubes to make more of myself. It's like, no, that's the wrong direction. You're a little overambitious here. And it's like having to see how the your body interacts that way against cells, where it's like, wait, isn't that one of us? I don't think we fight that one, right? And it's like, no, I think that one's bad, right? It's like, no, I don't think so. It's like
that's
this
one
weird...
of the avenues of treating cancer is precisely that dynamic, teaching the body to fight itself in a way, and that's why like, chemo is so it screws you up.
Yeah, that's why it's a fun dynamic to watch. Is you're seeing like the different parts of your whatever, forgot the name now, your immune system. There you go.
Yeah, it's
like watching the different parts of your immune system trying to comprehend like how it goes about fighting cancer, because it, again, on the surface level, it is a normal cell. It's not doing anything. It's not infected. And that's the problem, is like your body goes, yeah, no, what the fuck, that's fine. And you don't notice it's bad until like someone has to like knock on the door basically and go like, hey, what the hell's going on in here? And then they see it and go like, oh no, wait, this is bad. Like otherwise
they were crypto-fascists all along.
Yeah, like the argument was like there was an apartment complex and every cell has an apartment in an apartment complex, but like the cancer one just takes over a whole floor. And no one notices because until like, red blood cells just come and deliver food or delivering nutrients to cells, and they just show up and it's like, here's your food, and they just walk away. They're not their job isn't to keep track of who's supposed to do what. They just deliver shit and move on with their lives. And so like unless a white blood cell shows up for some specific reason, or killer T cell or some other kind show up for some reason, they're not going to know that this is happening, and they're not going to do something about it because it's not an alert to the body. Like a virus actively is being a piece of shit. It shows up in your body and just like destroys important things like blood cells and stuff. And so it's like, all right, maybe we should take care of that guy. But cancer just does its job poorly. And so that's not really your body doesn't really notice that. It doesn't go like, huh, that's odd. Someone's doing their job poorly. Yeah. It's just like,
it's really interesting because some animals don't have, I don't remember what animals, but there are animals that just don't have cancer. It's
jellyfish.
Is it jellyfish? Well, maybe. I think it's like something more closer to us, like octopuses or crawfish or something like that.
Something closer to us, like things that live in the ocean exclusively. The places we cannot live.
Jellyfish are really, really basic organisms. They're about as basic as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, the more complex, like humans are stupid complex.
I think
like there's too much going on.
I don't remember where I've seen it though. I probably should look into it before I say things.
I would believe it. There's enough stupid things in nature to make me believe that there's probably somebody who's immune to cancer, and you're like, oh, lucky you then, sir. And it's like, yeah, but not really running with the best stats. I don't know, Tears, you probably can tell you.
Isn't everybody that doesn't get cancer just immune to cancer?
Well, that's not what immune means.
Well, so
Well, I mean,
another-
you don't catch cancer.
Well, yeah, I guess the problem is like some things don't live long enough to get cancer either.
You just do or don't
Like-
develop cancer.
Yeah, like
You don't- it's,
cancer
not like,
is
it's not like a virus or anything.
yeah, cancer is such a random event that like
No, but cancer is
Unless
a
we're-
failure of a genetic structure. Like if the genetic structure is done in a way that doesn't allow for cancer, or for what
well,
we say cancer is.
Sure, but that can happen in a multitude of ways. Like that could happen
Yeah,
from exposure to radiation all the way to just oopsie-daisies, like you inhaled smoke from somebody next to you. Like your
Yeah.
body's kind of a weird mess held together by like shoestring and fishing wire. And so like anything that disrupts the natural flow would just throw it into chaos. But animals are different. Animals are like by and large not observed creatures. You know, like they're not there are
Unobserved?
a lot of animals and they're not going to the doctor when they get sick. Like
Oh.
a badger doesn't show up and go like, "Yo, man, I got a lump." Like the badger just dies and then gets eaten and then it just moves on. And there's probably like, I would imagine it's probably hard to keep track of like what animals, what the susceptibility.
It's a little bit of a complicated, weird thing now, because at this point, the part of us that does care about animals is really invested in them and is actively trying to observe basically all animals. And more animals exist in captivity than exist in the wild. Because the world
No,
is
that's
weird
not
now.
true. That's not true. That's not even accounting for insects, which are the majority of animals.
Well, yeah, I'm not
What
counting
do you
insects at
mean?
all. I'm talking about mammals and lizards, especially mammals.
Oh, right. Oh, mammal.
Like,
Okay.
if you
yes,
talk
yes,
about
yes,
mammals, I'm pretty sure the majority of all mammals are in captivity.
Yeah. Well,
In
rats.
fact, I think like
there's a lot of rats.
80% of mammals are cows.
Wait a second.
That'd be interesting to look into.
That seems.
I saw some sort of
I don't think-
infographic with was a while ago
Okay.
that was like, they represent all the different things as a series of like squares, and then they cluster the ones that are the same together, and it's like livestock was like the majority of life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's like 2 cows
population.
per person in the world right now. So
Yeah,
so roughly 19 billion
let's
cows.
see.
Which is I have a thing about cows. Like 20 years ago.
The thing about cows. We
Let me-
have
let me
to
get
end
to the
this
point.
like soon. We're so
Soon,
over
soon, yes.
time. Normally we would have
Sorry.
been done 2 hours ago.
20 years ago in a like presentation about the impact of cars and fossil fuel burning in university, I saw like a graph showing the impact or the creation of CO2. So basically, just as a quick recap, the reason why CO2 emissions are a problem for global warming is that the Earth has a certain capacity to absorb CO2 every year, and that depends on many factors, but it has a certain capacity, let's say 500. And we were producing 450, and that's all good. It absorbs absorbs all that. But if we're producing 100 more, then there's 50 CO2 that gets left behind and accumulates. And that's what creates global warming. Just as a general rule, that's the reason why there's a threshold. And I saw the graph that said the amount of CO2 that's created, the vast majority of CO2 is naturally created, and that's where the 450 comes from. And that's why if we create a little bit more, it's a problem. But I saw a graph that said that I think it's 8% of all the world CO2 is created just from burning fossil fuels. And, that's something that we need to fix, obviously. But 11%, I think at the time, this was like 15 or 20 years ago, 11% is done by the agropecuary. What's the word for cow farming? Animal husbandry? No.
Agriculture.
Yeah, but it's not just
Livestock?
agriculture. Livestock, yeah, basically. It's more than the cars. And the whole
cow
presentation
farts are
was about
killing the world.
I'm gonna be honest
Yeah,
here. I'm not that committed to cows. Like,
No.
I'm
let me
fine
just get
wiping
to the
them out. Let's get rid of them.
Let me just make my point though, because the whole presentation was about we need to fix cars, and I was looking at
I
that
don't
graph
really
and I was
even
like,
eat red meat.
I think we need to fix cows, and we do need to fix cars and also cows. But the understanding the reason why it is such a polluting industry is very important. But it's weird because I've always known that cows are super, well, not always, but since
They're
then
not even
I've
that good at
always,
meat either. Yeah, like cow meat isn't great.
yeah, it's a terrible way of feeding ourselves. It's like we
Yeah,
create. I think it's only 20% of the energy that we create in the whole industry actually gets it into our bodies. We like. If we want to eat animals, there's a lot of other animals that are better than cows. Cows are just awful, and pigs are
I guess
not
I
as
guess it's
awful,
because they're
but still awful.
versatile. Because like cows
Yeah,
can be
yeah.
used for milk and food.
Yeah,
And they're great.
But the reason milk exists as an industry is also because of the meat industry. Because cows need to be born, and the offshoot of cows being born is that the cows make milk, and they need to sell that milk. So that's how that goes. It's also a vicious cycle in that regard. But it's connected to. It's not we don't make cows because of the milk. It's the other way around.
Yeah, no, I just meant that I don't think cows produce anything I care about. I guess I
there's
care
a lot
about
of bone.
cheese. Cheese would be
There's a lot
nice
of
not
bone
to
that is
lose.
used, and leather.
I don't care about
there's
leather.
a lot
Why
of,
do I care about leather? I can make fake leather. Fake leather works just fine.
Yeah, but the leather from cows is used in fake leather as well.
Yeah, but that's fine. We can synthetically create that. We just need to get better at doing that.
That's the synthetic. Well, yeah, we can create synthetically from other materials, but it is
Yeah.
also possible to create fake leather from actual leather.
I feel like
'Cause,
there's no reason to be this reliant on animals. They're not that important.
No, there absolutely,
we
and
should
there's
be way
people
better
who
at-
actually know what they're talking about that talk about this. I'm just shooting the shizzles, but I don't know why I started talking about this though. It's a tangent. We just go. I'm sorry.
What matters the most is that the end of this podcast will be about the end. All right. Thank you guys for watching and listening and having a good time. I
Yes.
don't know. Don't turn on cars or cows. Save the planet. There you go.
But mostly
Message-
cows.
Message received.
Don't turn on them because they will kick you.
And they only
What?
live 20 years, so you get to outlive a lot of cows. Just be happy about that.
You're high on the cow leaderboard. Tippy top. Every cow that existed when you were born is dead.
Alternatively, every
also
giant tortoise
dogs.
will outlive you. Haha, you're nothing.
Also dogs, yes.
God, it reminds me when I
we
was
just
at I was
generally-
at like a wine tasting thing, and I was bored because I hate that. And I picked up this fucking coffee table book that was in the middle of the room, and
Book of the Dead Dogs.
it was the Dead Dog Diary. I think I named a podcast
I mean,
that
they
at
were
some point
alive.
because I brought it up. But yeah, it was like
Yeah.
full of all these like winery dogs, and then I looked at the publication date. I'm like, oh, all these dogs are dead. Just this entire book is dead dogs. Oh my god. All right, see you
kinda
guys
wanna
next
do
time.
that.
Please send questions to dialoguechoicespodcast@gmail.com.
Bye.
Bye-bye.